the earth weeps. The earth weeps when we sleep, the earth weeps when we thrive and burn its soul. The earth weeps, threeping for peace. Welcome back to TEDxKhaitan Public School 2020. The third session of the day is all about climate action. It is about the steps that have been taken and the ones that should be taken in order to achieve a more resilient and a safer world. Our fifth speaker of the day is Mr. Rim Dorji. Mr. Dorji is a senior engineer with the Sikkim state government and has served as the project director for the Asian Development Bank project for South Asia Tourism Infrastructure Development Project in the state. In addition to being the president of the Rotary Club, Gangtok South, he has also been nominated as India's Goodwill Ambassador to Brazil. As a member of the Hazard Safety Cell, he has done a great deal of good work in post-earthquake rehabilitation with regard to raising funds and execution. Based on his valuable contribution, he was invited by the government of Taiwan as a future leader of South Asia. He has also been invited by the United States government for an international visitors leadership program on disaster management. He is a reader, a music enthusiast, and an adventurer, but at the heart of it all, he is passionate about the well-being of the mountains that he calls home. What I like the most is his idea of bringing a change, as he believes that a person can actually do something when he or she is happy. He believes that happiness is indeed a key to success. Watch him speak from the heart about how plans for sustainability and averting disaster have been put into action and can be spread far and wide.
Welcome aboard, Rim.
Yeah, just hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me for this talk. And when I see these young kids around me, I feel like it's a blessing for me. So last week we had a it was called the rainy shower. So last week was a pious day for us Buddhists because the rain which came, it was said that whatever we receive, it is like a prasad. So for me also, when I see you young kids listening to my blabbering with such intensity, I feel it's a blessing to me, and I grow younger day by day whenever I'm in touch with you. So thank you very much. My name is Rem, engineer from Sikkim, and it's all about ideas. And hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, so TEDx is all about ideas, ain't it? Is it idea or not? I want you all to participate side by side. If I can see you nodding, then I know that I'm talking to someone. Otherwise, I'll be talking all alone. I'm just joking. So TEDx is all about ideas, and ideas as in smart ideas, and very smart people listening. So I guess I'm a very smart speaker. So I thought that I have to come up with a very smart idea because you guys are all smart listeners. So my smart idea is happiness, and there are two. I have kept it in two kinds of happiness. One is real happiness, and the other one is a sustainable happiness. Basically, happiness is genuine contentment, and in order to be happy, we need to balance the material progress with spiritual growth. Spiritual growth can be anything, like it can be religious growth, or it can be a mental growth, or any growth. So you need to balance it out with the material progress and with the spiritual growth. So here in Sikkim, early on, through our parents, through school, through community, We are taught to protect natural environment, fight global warming, celebrate our culture, practice good governance. So how do we, so when we do this, now the next question in your mind would be, how do we measure happiness? Do you have that? Like, do you think like, how are we going to measure happiness? So it's very important. So I kind of picked it up from Bhutan because Bhutan has the concept of GNH. Do you know that? So the GNH
Yes,
means
happiness, happiness index.
yeah, yeah, gross national happiness. So instead of measuring your richness, where other countries measure it in GDP, which is called the gross domestic product, they measure their countries means whatever money they earn is through the gross national happiness. So they have made it into a 8 domain. So the 8 domains are like you have the health, you have the education, you have your living standards, you have culture, you have ecology, you have time use, you have good governance and psychological well-being. So now the question is, how do I become happy? So how do we become happy? So you have the sense of security, you have sense of identity, and you have a sense of purpose. So sense of security, identity, and purpose can be on individual level or it can be on national level. So last time we had a talk with 4 or 5 of us. So what happened? I said, all of you are studying in a very good school. You have a good family. So what happens? You have a sense of security because once you go back, you know that you're going back to a AC room. You have your food laid on the table. Everything is there. Yes or no? And then second thing is you have your identity. Like I see, like on the first is Lakshita Sharma. You have a sense of identity because your dad has given you, or someone your parents have given you, or like Rashi has got a Ratan in there. So someone like you have a sense of identity. And then once you have these two, then what do you think about? You have a sense of purpose. So what is the sense of purpose is? For you, the sense of purpose would be, oh, the environment is bad. We need to do something. Or like today in my neighborhood, there were a lot of dogs which were hungry. I'm going to feed them. So there's a sense of purpose. So like that, you have an individual level and at a national level. So national level, what does it mean with national level? National level means good governance. So when we say go out and vote, each vote counts, means that is the time when you demand for a good governance from the people who's standing there for elections. Okay. And now I just jotted some points, so I need to go through and then I'll talk to you and make it thing. Okay, now I come back. Now I come to the climate change and global warming. Some of them know. We all know that there are 2 poles on the Earth. So it's a North Pole and the
South Pole.
South Pole.
okay. So North Pole and the South Pole. What are these poles? What do you look at it? When you look at these poles, what do you look at it?
Ice and cold.
Ice and cold. And it is a what you have to remember, it's a repository of fresh water.
Fresh water.
Fresh water. So now my other question would be, which is the third pole?
The
Mount Everest. The Himalayas, sorry, the Himalayas.
Yeah, so the Hindu Kush Himalayan glaciers is what we should know is our third pole. And that is where the largest, after the Arctic and the Antarctic, the largest repository of fresh water is in the Hindu Kush Himalayan glaciers. So what happens? 1/5 of the world's population, that means China, India, Bangladesh, Burma, Bhutan, Nepal, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, they rely on these waters. They rely on these waters, which are very important to us. So now I'm going to talk to you of something very sad thing about the global warming. What happens? From the pre-industrial era temperature, and if by the end, if the temperature rises by 1.5 degrees centigrade, if the temperature rises by 1.5 degrees centigrade, 1/3 of the glaciers will melt in the Himalayas. You understand? And as per the COP convention, you know what's a COP convention? So the COP convention is called the Conference of Parties of UNFCCC. So United Nations Climate Change Framework Convention, where all the countries were brought into the UN umbrella. This was formed in 1994 to check the greenhouse emission and to protect Earth from the threat of climate change. So this COP, so you have COP 15, COP 21. So they have meetings all over the world. So in one of the COP 21, I think, which was in Paris during December 2000, I think would be about 2015. They decided that they will control the global warming and keep the global warming to, in comparison with the pre-industrial area till the turn of the century to 2 degrees, which is next to impossible. 1.5 is, I'm talking way like a better than the best case scenario, which is impossible. And 2 degrees also, everybody agrees to do it, to reduce the greenhouse emission and pollution and all those things. It would be, they agreed on 2 degrees centigrade. So what happens to the glacier? Half of the Himalayan glaciers will melt by this turn of the century. At the going rate as of now, as of today, at the end of the century, 2/3 of the glaciers will melt. So it's a very serious issue, what we are thinking of. The issue is we have people say no that this earth is I have inherited this earth. It's not what I have inherited. It is not I have inherited from this earth. We have to change it. And we say that we have taken on lease from the kids from you. So we have to treat it nicely. We have to treat it with love, tender, and care. So I'm just trying to scare you, but there are a lot of good things being done. So now what happens when you have global warming? What happens? You receive a lot of rain, but you don't receive snow. And when you receive a lot of rain, it hurts the snow. Like for example, if you keep an ice just like that on the table, and if you keep an ice next to the running water, which melts faster. The one which is kept on the running water, it melts faster. So if it rains a lot, it's not good for the glaciers up there because it'll melt away the ice as much as possible. And then the second thing is of the pollution. What happens? What is pollution? Pollution emits black carbon. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So they emit black carbon. So what happens when the black carbon mingles with the rain and the snow, and it lands on the glacier? What
Acid
happens?
rain.
Yeah, it's an acid rain. And second thing is it's black in nature. So what happens with black?
The water gets dirty. And
No, you are correct. But what's the nature of black? It absorbs more heat. White reflects heat, and black absorbs more heat. So when the black carbon sits on a glacier, it's absorbing more heat than what the glacier is. So what happens? The ice melts faster, at a very fast rate. It melts at a very fast rate. Now you take, for example, did you know about the Uttarakhand devastation where you saw the Shiva temple almost being swept away? About ocean.
yeah.
Sorry, my internet is acting quite a lot today. But you heard about? Did you know about that Uttarakhand thing? About that Shiva temple almost getting? Yeah. So what happens is, do you know the basic idea about what happens? So what is happening is on the Himalayan belt, you have the snow-capped mountains and the glaciers. And now just below that, you have a lot of glacial lakes. So what happens is anything which melts, it goes to the glacial lakes. Now what happens? You take an example of a bucket of water. So what happens to the bucket of water? When you put the water, it stays there. But if you have a steady trickle, the bucket overflows. Okay. So now what happens? Basically, the lake, the glacier, the water trickles to the lake, and it trickles over, and then the river is formed. So you have the Ganges, the Brahmaputras flowing to the Tibet side on the Chinese occupied Tibet side. So that is the basic geography as to how the rivers are formed. But now what is happening is the melting of water is at a very fast pace. So the bucket is being pressurized, is being pushed. And if the bucket cannot take the pressure, what happens? The bucket bursts. Yes or no?
Yes.
And so is the lake. So the lake, what happens is it bursts because it cannot take the pressure. Because the outlet, the inlet is equivalent to the outlet. It's like the Archimedes. Yes. So it breaks and the whole lake bursts. And when that lake bursts, and then and that is the reason why there was a Uttarakhand kind of a tragedy, what is happening. So every year you hear a lot of Bihar, you have the Bihar floods, and in Assam you see these are all because the water is melting at a faster rate than what it should be. And this is the major impact of global warming. If there is in the plains, if it is 1 degree centigrade, higher you go at a higher rate, say about 15,000 or 18,000 or 20,000 feet, there's a difference of 1 degree more. So the water at which, the ice at which the water is melting is at a faster pace. So every 0.01 or 0.1 or say about 1 degree, the impact is at a very huge level. For you, it doesn't sound to say 1.5 to 2.5 doesn't make sense because it's like switching on the AC and say, okay, we're going 24 degrees or we're going 18 degrees. So, but at that level, it is a very different scene. The scenario is very different. I trek a lot. So way back, about 8 years back, we have one of the biggest glacier called the Zemu Glacier in Sikkim, and it's in the northern part of Sikkim. And it is at the base of the Mount Kanchenjunga, the third highest mountain. And I went there. The glacier was actually supposed to be 7-kilometer long glacier. It was a 7-kilometer long. Due to the climate change, now it has become only 6 kilometers. We have lost 1 kilometer of glacier in these past 80, 90 years. So that is the level of impact at a change of about 1 to 2 degrees. So, like I'm trying to tell you that what are the impacts which is happening in the Himalayan belt. And it is not the Himalayan belt only, but later on it will impact you in the plain. Okay. So what happens? Like, for example, say way back in 1920s, 30s or 40s, even if you go to the palaces, the Maharaja palaces, you have photographs, where like the kings have killed a tiger and kept on the front and take a photograph. Yes or no? Yeah. So
Yes.
the ash and all that stuff and all that, they've taken photographs. But now you and me, we try to do that. What happens? What?
We don't even try.
No, but I'm saying
It's not possible.
do that. We'll be imprisoned.
We will get killed.
We'll get imprisoned. Yeah. So my thing is, now what is happening? Everybody is going to Mount Everest or any. Shit. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now what happens is, this is the same case scenario now. You listen to me properly. Now what happens? You see a lot of photographs, people going with Indian flag, US flag, climbing the Mount Everest and putting it and showing, taking photographs. We should stop all this. because we should say that anybody takes that photograph, climbs that mountain where these are our fish, these are our refrigerators, these are our water, these are our storage, these are my waters. We have to say this is my water. And you are not supposed to climb, you are not supposed to make it dirty by climbing over it. And it's like the same scenario of the Maharajas clicking photographs, and now we can't do that. You all should insist that nobody should take photograph and nobody should climb these mountains. Sikkim is the only state where we don't allow climbing Mount Kanchenjunga because we take it as a deity. Back during, like, I was just listening to the speaker just before me, and he was talking about the religion, intermixing of religion and science. And intermixing of religion and science, most of the time, people didn't know about it. So what the wise sage used to say was, like, don't climb means, you'd say, what's wrong with it? But basically he's saying is later on you'll have problem with your water. Respect that mountain, respect that ice, respect that water. And if you respect it, then the mountains will give you water. So you understand what I'm trying to put through, that later on you all should say that nobody should climb the mountains. With great lot of pressure, the minute the government of India said you are allowed to climb about 36 mountain peaks in Sikkim, the whole of Sikkim stood up and said, no, we are not going to do that. And with great difficulty, we have allowed only 7. Kanchenjunga, you can climb from the Nepal side, but we refuse. Sikkim refuses, and we lose a lot of money. We lose a lot of money because we are not allowing the climbers to climb. We are refusing. People want. There are a lot of pressures, but we don't allow it. So we consider this as a sacred mountain, just to for you, for us, and for you guys, so that you have pristine water. So these are one of the
So I
challenges
had
we
a
have.
question.
Yes, yes. Please,
So
you can break me anytime.
yeah. So I was asking that as we got to know from you that Sikkim has not allowed to climb Kanchenjunga, but what if the Nepal side allows to climb Kanchenjunga? Then also the issue remains the same. The
Yeah.
climbing takes
So,
place.
now the question is, Nepal is allowing. What you are saying is correct, but what little we can do. You understand what I'm saying? If everybody there are a lot of bulls who are jumping over the cliff. Does it mean that I also go and jump over the cliff? No, no. So what,
The point
like,
is
that is what
that
I'm saying is think globally.
So we are
Yeah,
slowing down.
yeah. In our
Sikkim
own,
is actually taking initiative to
yes,
stop such
exactly.
things.
Yes, exactly.
And that is what matters because they are,
Yes,
one step ahead bringing the change.
yes. Like, I know that what Advik is saying is correct. But the question is, if everybody is kicking the dog, does it mean that I go and kick the dog? At least
So
he'll
what
get
do you
one kick less.
suggest, like lifestyle changes that we should make, except,
Yeah. Yes. So basically, I call the Hindu Kush Himalayan glaciers as the water towers of Asia, where 1.6 billion people, roughly about 1/5 of the world population, depend on these glaciers for water. People like you, people like me, people like in and around everybody who sees, we depend. And I'm trying my best not to say this, but I will say to you that when China took over Tibet, there was a lot of talks. Why did it take over? Was it for this uranium richness or was it for the gold? But later, after 10, 15 years, we found out it was not for that. It was for the water. And they have been diverting water to different parts of China because if you have a country and who refuses to give you water, like you have a lot of fights in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka over the Kaveri issue. Pakistan is saying you're not releasing the Satluj River waters. So ultimately, it's a problem. Now, so the question is, at the current rate, what we are doing with the temperature rising, and I'm talking about the current, which I also don't know what it is. That water tower will be broken. That water tower will be broken. So what will happen if the water tower is broken? And it is now happening. portions of it is breaking. We will get water. We'll get a lot of water when we don't need it. That is the monsoons. And we will not have any waters when we want it. That is during the winters. So we will have a lot of flooding during the monsoons, which you all are seeing. You are listening in, like you are seeing in your own Delhi when it's raining. The whole thing is getting flooded because you're getting more than what you need. And then when in the winters you see Yamuna, it's just a trickle because you're getting nothing when you really need it. So these are the problems which you all should know. The
So,
question
well,
is,
well, what can the youth, like all of us, we are the youth at this point of time. What can we do
the
for
question is,
all this?
see, basically that is what I was also saying. There are 3-4 kind of people, and I was just seeing the lineup of all your speakers. The first one, Mr. Florin or someone like that, is a doer. So he does. He does to that seat. He, and people like us are seers. We what to say? We try to disseminate whatever we have heard, whatever people have spoken, whatever we have experienced. So there are 2-3 kinds of people which you can become. You can become a doer. You can become a disseminator. I'm not a person who goes and does, but I'm a person who disseminates things to you all. And the problem of climate change is just not you and me. The whole world has to come together because it's a world problem. It's like a COVID pandemic. It's like not you and me, but it's the whole problem. And everyone has to do themselves, like a small way, whatever which way we can do, you have to do. I'll get back to you because I will start telling you what are the things we have done in Sikkim. So I can answer you better because those are at the later stages. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So, first and foremost thing, we don't care. Why we don't care? So long it doesn't affect us, we don't care. Yes or no? Way back in 2006, the president of Maldives, what he did, he took the entire cabinet ministry and he pulled a stunt. He went underwater and he held his cabinet meeting with all the gears and then did all the signing and all that stuff and all. Nothing happened to me because it doesn't care, because it's trying to prove that in another 20, 30, 40 years, Maldives will no longer be there as an island or as a country because it'll be fully submerged. Then after 2, 3 years, the Nepal Prime Minister, he took his cabinet and did the cabinet meeting in the base of Mount Everest. Still, it didn't affect me because I didn't care about it. But when I went up and saw the Zemu Glacier, when I saw the glacial lake bursting, then it affected me. When it hits you first, so you have to, like, the only question is now you have to think that we have to care. We have to care whatever resources we have. We have to care. The region, the Himalayan region, is not only crying, not only sick, but it's crying. So there are 2, 3 things what will happen. Have you seen a lot of refugees in the TV, like from the Lebanon and from these Middle East countries, going on the boat and going to European countries, and then you see a lot of dead. There are people entering inside. No matter whatever defenses the European nation had, they couldn't help but accept the refugees. Yes or no? Because they were all war refugees and they would refuse to go back. They would enter even if you shoot us, we don't care. So they had to take it because that was the biggest migration of people after the Neanderthal or whatever Homo sapien migration and all. So the war refugees was one of the biggest migration of people for last 2, 3 years, which we have been seeing. But now the issue is of the climate refugees. In another 30 years, you'll have climate refugees. What will happen if Delhi doesn't have water? What will you do? You'll climb up to the Himalayas because that's where you have to go. And me being in Sikkim, I cannot stop you because no matter whatever you do, there will be hordes and hordes of people coming. You cannot do anything because you're fighting for water. Yes or no? Albert Einstein said that the Third World War will be fought over water. You have heard about this? Yes, the Third World War will be fought over water. So These are very important. Now the critical question is, you know what? In the Hindu Kush glaciers, there are 3 countries which are nuclear nations. You have China, you have India, and you have Pakistan. So that becomes even more dangerous because you have three nations which are nuclear. So if there is less water resources, the countries will fight. Just now, these fightings are all just standing off because economically we cannot fight. Everyone goes for a war. But if there's a question of water, if you get up, you don't need electricity for 24 hours or 48 hours. You can just chuckle around. But the first thing in the morning, if you don't get water, what happens? The whole day is a problem for everyone. You can't wash your face, you can't brush your teeth, you can't drink water, and then everything goes haywire, and some guy who's gone cuckoo over the head pushes the button down and says, okay, no, I had it, I'm going to press the nuclear button. So then we are gone. Okay. So there is this cry of for an establishment of third pole council. This is what you got to listen to me very well, because you are the youth and you will be the influencers later on. अपना तो क्या है, थोड़ा 30-40 साल और जिएंगे और चला जाएंगे, but for you all it's like another 50 years, 60 years to go. So there is a cry for a third pole council, and this you should write it or put it in your memory that we need this third pole council. And what is a third pole council? It should have a singular responsibility of protecting the Hindu Kush Himalayan repository of ice. And who should be in the council? All the countries who are affected, who are drinking water, all that should be the member countries of this third pole council. And the people who are like the US or the European nation or Japan or South Korea should be the observers from outside. And it is important that we protect only repository of fresh water. We should protect it. Other than the Narmada, which is down in south, all the water rivers are all from the Himalayan. If you look at it, if you listen to your geography, if you go back to your geography, all the waters, it all starts from the Himalayas. Okay. So, like what Advik said, what do we have to do? So I want to say that we in Sikkim we are making immense sacrifices to act locally. We are doing a lot of sacrifices to act locally. And we are thinking globally and acting regionally. We are thinking globally, like we are thinking about climate change, and we are acting regionally. So there are pointers. So what have we done? That is the major question which you all will be asking. So we in Sikkim for centuries ago, we have promised ourselves. That time there's nothing called carbon neutral or anything as such. But how did we keep? When we were still a kingdom till 75, all our kings mandated that 66% of Sikkim should be under the forest cover, and only 33% should be under the human habitation. And all our successive chief ministers have still kept that promise of keeping all the forest covers in 66%. So what happens? The emission of carbon dioxide is from 33%. The emission of oxygen is 66%. You do your maths. You do your maths, and we are not carbon neutral. What are we?
Carbon negative.
Yes, we are carbon negative. And if we become carbon negative, what happens? We are giving
More oxygen.
More
oxygen. And where does it go? It goes down to the plains. So the oxygen is given from all this Himalayan belt and from Sikkim. Because to keep ourselves as carbon negative, we would have done. We could have cut the forests, put up real estates, got money, yes or no? But we have refused to do that. We have made these immense sacrifices not for us. We are thinking globally and acting regionally. You understand, Advik, now And the fact is, our main thing is what again it comes back to is I told you about the 8 domains of happiness. That is what is the question of good governance. Is the question of our erstwhile kings making that mandate, and our successive chief ministers keeping that mandate. Today, he could have passed any chief minister or the present chief minister could have passed a law in the assembly and said we are doing away with it and we are cutting down trees and we are going to establish industries, but we haven't done that, and we are fighting over it. This last time I told you about this, we have the smart city program going on in Gangtok, and there was a proposal to cut 1,000 trees. They cut about 30 to 40 trees. Immediately, everybody went and put a PIL on the High Court and stayed it. And we said, nothing doing, we don't want our trees to be cut. And that is very important. So, so our governments, past and present, we have worked tirelessly to balance the economic growth carefully with social developments, environment sustainability, and culture preservation, all within the framework of good governance. So these three, social developments, environmental sustainability, and culture preservation, are the key priorities of our government. And that's what we call a good governance. That's what we call it as a good governance. Am I overshooting the time, or is it okay? Like, or I need to rush through?
We're okay. We are fairly on time.
Okay. So if you look at it, like our Sikkim's economy is very less, like compared to any other state. Forget about any other state. Our economy would be even less than a yearly turnover of Lajpat Nagar, the market in Lajpat Nagar. So our economy is so small, and we are about roughly about, if you see, earlier it used to be called a plan and an unplanned budget. So now it is done away with. Our entire budget would be roughly about 8 to 9,000 crores. That's all we have. But within that amount of money, what we did is we were very careful with the money which we are using here. So, because happiness and well-being is the prime importance of our government, so we use our limited resources very carefully. So what we did was we followed development with values. We followed the development with values. So what are the development with values? Like I talked to you earlier, we put our money into two things. We put our money on education and we put our money on health. Education, like I told you before, education is free till the college level. If you crack the top 10 universities in the world and you get in, you will get fully, it will be fully paid for you, right? From the travel to stay to your college fees, everything will be paid. Healthcare, everything is paid for. We are all insured. All the Sikkimese people are insured in healthcare. Anywhere you go, major hospitals like Medanta, Apollo, Max. Earlier it used to be cashless. Now you got to pay and we get it reimbursed. See, about a year back, we just had to go give our letter from the health department, and it used to be cashless. You just go do your thing and you come back. So nothing, everything was paid. Even the tickets were paid, the air tickets, the train tickets for the people who were sick and for one attendant. So 2 people were paid for. So our resources, we have used it because we wanted a good governance and we wanted happy people around. So what is happy people? When education is free and your health is free, automatically everything is happy, you know? Because your 2 main core problems are solved by the government. So what we do is Sikkim, we follow do you know the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goal? There's a SDG called the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal of the UN. You can later on Google it and look at 17. Yes.
We studied it last year.
Yeah. So what we as the people of Sikkim and the government, we seriously try to follow the 17 Sustainable Development Goal of the UN. So whatever projects we do, whatever things we take up, we always look into that and measure it with the 17 Sustainable Development Goal. For example, what Sikkim has done, like many of you have asked, We have always, whenever there's a cleanliness index if you read in India Today or anything, Sikkim is always the number one, the most cleanest state in India. We have been awarded Swachh Bharat Award by the President of India in 2019. We are the first Nirmal Rajya. Nirmal Rajya means every citizen has a toilet. Every citizen they were constructed toilet. So there's non-open defecation state. The sad part is, you know what, when our airport is in West Bengal called Bagdogra. So if you take a taxi, if you take a West Bengal taxi, I don't mean to say anything bad against them, but invariably when you do, before they enter Sikkim, they stop on the roadside and they say, okay, you can do whatever you want to do your business, because once you cross, you are not allowed to do. You cannot, because if a taxi stops and then somebody is defecating outside, like peeing or other things, anybody can stop and take the driver to the police, or take a photograph and you post it to the police, and you'll be fine. So we have been doing all these. We have been and then we have been focusing on organic agricultural products. We are the one and the only state in the world as of now which is fully organic. Then I talked about myth one, and there I just looked into what we have done in considering one as in forest. So I came up with an interesting thing which is there with that word and I've forgotten about it. Because we pioneered in Smriti One, SMRITI, Smriti One. It's like it's a dedication forest. So this concept aimed at developing memorial forests on degraded lands through community participation. So then what we are doing now is we are trying to create employment opportunities for educated youth in respective areas, focusing on creating market and supply chains around traditional handicrafts. Then you have tourism based on culture, health, and nature. So we are heading towards more on responsible tourism, where we want tourists to come and be responsible, not spoil the environment. Come and help the people out there, teach them, or spend a week or 2 weeks with them, with the people, and learn about the lifestyle of our people. And you also learn a lot of good things, what we are trying to do. So we are looking at that. And then we are also promoting agriculture products under the garb of OVOP. It's called OVOP. So OVOP means one village, one product. So we are trying to promote all these kind of projects. So basically, our love of our land, nature, and environment, it has compelled our government and our people to adopt the best practices which we follow diligently. And I would like to share what we follow diligently. First thing, how to legitimately go organic. It took us almost 7 to 8 years to get the certification to go organic, because it's a very long process. You just can't say overnight saying that I'm stopping fertilizers and I'm going organic. You just can't do that. It goes through a lot of certification processes. All the agricultural lands have to be mapped. It has to be defertilized. So it takes minimum of about seven years to defertilize the land. So we did all that, because once you stop fertilizers, what happens? The production value of the vegetables goes down. Okay. So normally when you see an organic vegetable and a fertilized vegetable, the fertilized vegetable will always look good. It'll always look like, if you look at a spinach, it'll be very big. It'll be very leafy. There'll be no insects. Organic will be a little bit small. It'll be a little bit it's gone bad. And then you have insects. So normally when you see that, that is actually a better vegetable or a fruit to eat, actually. It's not the shiny ones which are the good ones. And what we did was we effectively banned plastic. So what we started was, like, when you start initially, there's a lot of anger towards the whole system, as why you are doing this, why you are planning plastic, because it's so easy to carry and all. So we went on an overdrive. What we did was we started penalizing shopkeepers who are using plastic bags. Then what we did was we started putting in CCTV cameras, and then we are trying to see that which guy is carrying plastic bag and coming out from the shops. So all these kind of measures we did. Then what we did was we tried conserving water. We tried rejuvenating all our streams and the springs, especially rejuvenation of springs. So the major things what we did was, though we cannot ban plastic bottles because it's an all India thing, what we did was we banned plastic bottled waters in all the government offices and official functions. So what you can do in your own small way is, in school, you should ban using of plastic water bottles, and put up filters so that you can use your reusable water bottles. So what we did was, in all the markets, we have put water filters in almost all the strategic locations, so that we encourage people to use reusable bottles and fill the water from there. So these are the measures what we have done. And promotion of water harvesting in village and school levels. So a lot of school levels have been told how to do water harvesting, and even in the village level. So very simple things. What we do is, basically, when the water falls from the cloud, what happens? It goes and hits the ground. Yes or no? It goes and hits the ground and it splatters. But if you have the tree here, and then if the water hits the leaf, then it goes to the stem, then it goes to the trunk, and it goes to the root. What happens? What is the water conservation? Water conservation is to slow down the process of water from the cloud to the ground to the river. How much can you slow it down? So if you look at Delhi, everything is concrete. It goes, hits it, it goes to the drain, it goes with speed, it goes to the river. So what happens? Your water table is going down, because you are not allowing the water to settle down. That's the reason why plant more trees is important, because the trees doesn't do any magic like, oh, I'm going to absorb water. They're not doing any magic. The only what they are doing is they are slowing down the speed of the water. It is allowing the water to go into your water aquifers. Understand? So these are very important. I like it when you all shake it, because that says that I'm doing a good job. So then what we are doing is we are encouraging eco-friendly packaging. So if you see, if we order anything online here, like the food, any handicrafts, everything, all our packaging comes. Remember the old times, whenever you order for something, you always get it in a brown paper bag, everything. So here, if you see, I wish I could have ordered, because it's too late. I could have ordered and showed you the packaging which we get. We order for cookies, and the cookies come in a brown paper bag, and it's like stuck with a ribbon and says like, okay, there's this. So everything here, moment it's a plastic, immediately everybody starts calling to that person and saying, no, 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 you're not going to this. Do something innovative, do something eco-friendly. So these are small things, Advik, that you can do on your own small way. Say that I will refuse to take products from you if you do it in a plastic. Let's come out something innovative. And it is difficult. It's not easy. And we have come. It's been almost 30 years, and now we have achieved that level of what consciousness. And at your level, if you start, by the time you reach my age, probably your people would, because it's a very slow process. It's not magic, like instant magic that can be done. So then the second thing is, the whole of Sikkim, you are not allowed to use, like if you have a picnic, or if you have a religious gathering, or if you have a political rally, you're not allowed to use thermocol or styrofoam. You know, the plates and the cups, those styrofoam plates and cups. Not. Everyone's looking. Not the white one. The white one. Yes, not. Yes, the white ones. Those are harmful for. Those are harmful for for nature, for the environment. So it is totally banned. We don't use any plastic, styrofoam, or thermocol cups or the plates. So what we use is, we use leaves and bamboo cutleries. So, and that the government has given some tax rebate if you use these kind of, if people sell these kind of cutleries. So these are small things. Then We have also increased health and sanitation. So health and sanitation, immediately what happens? I've told you we are the first defecation-free state. So if we are first defecation-free state means what? That means every household has a toilet, a proper toilet with proper water facilities. And we in tourism, what we have been trying to do, which is very difficult. I know we have failed in that part. What we have done is we have made toilets every 20 kilometers of all the tourist routes so that they can go and use the toilet, not waste, do it outside. So we have done that, but some places, because we are very few in population, so there's nobody to manage. So it's not hunky-dory, but we have set up these, amenities. And the funny thing is, you know what? The funny thing is that it is mandatory to have a sanitary toilet at home to avail any government benefits. So if you want to avail any government benefits, you have to prove to the government that you have a toilet. So these are some, now the question is, these are all the questions of good governance. It can be possible. You can use these ideas and tell your, what to say, the councillors or the panchayats or to the MLAs and the MPs, like make it a mandatory thing, make it a mandatory thing. So then how do we save environment? Government has encouraged individuals to adopt a tree. We adopt it as a child. Each tree, almost everybody has a tree which is like a child or a sibling in an initiative to protect the environment. So imagine if some forester quietly goes and cuts the tree and find out that that was my tree, then there's a huge hue and cry, and that guy is gone, his job is gone. So even like during the monsoon season, like you need to lope the trees because of the branches and branches touching the electricity. And about 4 years back, the electricians went and loped the branches because it was quite dangerous. It was touching the electric poles and all. Those guys all went into jail. But later on, like they were doing it for the benefit of the people. So now what happens is there's a fixed date where the forest people and the government and the power people go and they lope the tree. So that kind of strictness we have. So, and again, the normal thing is like ban on public smoking, littering, and spitting. So now, like we were saying that we were already COVID ready because we are neither spitting nor littering. So we are already COVID prepared way back 10, 15 years ago. And then all the Sikkim capital, state capital, and the district headquarters are no harm zone, which most of you all know. So again, it's on noise pollution. And the funny thing is, if ever you Google in the terms of noise and noise pollution, if ever you Google Diwali in India, Google Diwali in India, Diwali night in India. And when you Google Diwali night in India, you will see the whole of India lighted up with all firecrackers and all. Only one state is dark, and Sikkim is dark, because there's a total ban on firecrackers. There's a total ban on firecrackers. So if ever you just Google Diwali night in India. Sikkim will be the only dark portion which will be. Sikkim, that will be the only state which will be dark. So I've been asked many times that Sikkim, I don't believe it's that perfect. I said Sikkim is not perfect. We have our own problems. But what we believe in, whatever little we do in the initiative of global warming and greenhouse emission cut down and all this, we are trying to set up an example. And if we can set up an example, and even 10 of you from 100 to 100, whoever is watching, takes it back home, I feel that I am successful of whatever I am saying, even if 10 of you do. So, the question many times I've been asked is Sikkim that perfect? Sikkim is not perfect. Whatever little we are doing, I'm trying to tell you that. So the whole question is of good governance. The whole question is of good governance. Whatever limited resources Sikkim has, we use it for the benefit of the happiness of our people, for the environment, and for our small fight against global warming. We use all these resources. So most of the time you hear Sikkim is a consumer state. Sikkim is a consumer state because we have no natural resources. We are not bringing industries in. So the question I tell them, because like if you look at Haryana, if you look at Punjab, they are the rice bowl of India. They provide rice. You look at Bihar, they provide coal. So on and so forth. Everybody, but most of the Himalayan regions are, they always tell us that you are a consumer state. You are a consumer state. I said, yes, we are a consumer state. But if you look at two things, tangible and intangible. Tangible is like all the states who give growth to the GDP, gives growth to the GDP in terms of rice or food or petrol or coal, good for them. But we in the Himalayan belt, and especially Sikkim, we give intangible things to India. We give happiness. Happiness in what ways? Happiness in oxygen, providing you with oxygen. Happiness in providing you with clean, good water. So somewhere or other, there has to be a balance.
Quality of life.
Yes. So we give you the intangible happiness, intangible things of happiness, quality of water, quality of life, quality of water to the plain people. And somewhere we need to balance, because if we are always being told earn money, then what do we have to do? We have to start cutting our trees. We have to start selling trees. We already have dams because we have been told you have to earn money. The state has to earn money. So we have dammed most of the rivers. There are a lot of ecological problems, but it's the question of the devil and the deep blue sea. We need money, so you all have to say to the government, we need to give money to the Himalayan state to be as it is. Don't touch it. We will work for it and give it to keep it pristine so that we have our water and our oxygen. We need that, because I cannot cap you for water. I cannot tell you I'm going to stop the river and I'm going to ask you to pay for the water. And I cannot stop the oxygen and say I want to stop, and unless you pay, then I'm going to. And in one of these public forums, they all laughed. They said, how do you stop the oxygen? And after 2 years, I read in a newspaper that Delhi people are buying oxygen-filled those cans. Do you know that?
Yeah.
They have been selling, yeah. And they're actually buying oxygen. So if you can keep that Himalayan states pristine, you don't need to do that, because we will provide you with water and we will provide you with oxygen. So that's really important. And do I need to? Am I in a thing? I just hold on. Do I need to close it down? So you tell me if I'm overshooting the time.
Yes, sir. We have actually gone a bit overboard.
Okay.
The time thing.
Okay. So I'm almost done. So lastly, I would like to conclude, because I started with a smart word. Now I want to conclude with a smart word. So the smart word is ethicpreneurship. What is an ethicpreneurship? It means brawn and brain of entrepreneurship should be combined with sense and sensibility of ethics. So ethicpreneurship is not creating or exploiting opportunities to create profit. It is about caring for others, dreaming and aspiring for a better world, not only for us, but for the future, and thereby making the well-being and happiness the primary goal of your entrepreneurship, and making profit your secondary goal. Thank you very much.
Thank
you,
you so
sir.
much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for
Thank
making us
you, sir.
believe
Thank
that
you.
a dream.
Yours was the most awaited session.
You know what is
Yeah.
this? You know what is this?
No.
It's a round of applause.
Oh. Wow.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for
sir.
making us believe that a dream can be achieved with adequate willpower. Over to
yeah.
you, Lakshita.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, I am speechless right now because, like, sir, you really are an inspiration for everyone, and like, especially for youth. Like, personally, you have encouraged me a lot to do something right now for this climate and for Earth. So it was really an amazing session. I've really enjoyed a lot personally, and really hope that the audience have also enjoyed a lot.
I hope so. I only saw 6 of you in front of my.
So
Good.
well, moving ahead, Rashi, I feel today that in this session, we really learn a lot. We have learned a lot till now as well. But I really feel that in today's world, people really use climate change and global warming as a synonym.
But that's not true. I mean, global warming is actually long-term heating of Earth's climate system due to human activities and fossil fuel burning, etc. And climate change, however, is the interaction between both, human and naturally produced warming and the effects it has on our planet.
Exactly, and I really hope that sharing this bit of information will definitely affect such a large audience and will help them dispel this misconception. So going forward, संगीत में मशहूर होना कभी हमारा मकसद नहीं रहा. हम अपने संगीत के माध्यम से कुछ बदलाव ला सकें या किसी के लिए कुछ कर पाएं, यही युग्म का प्रमुख उद्देश्य था और हमेशा रहेगा.
Since their inception, Yugm has been established as one of the most thrilling, innovative, and original acts on the Indian music scene, with the unique reputation of enthralling audiences in any kind of a setting, from corporate events to music festivals, pub gigs, and college shows even. Yugm is now a well-respected entity on the cultural map across India. The band predominantly blends folk, Western music, and ancient Indian music, along with elements of Sufi. The band has performed more than 450 shows in over 100 cities, and it beautifully incorporates classical Indian instruments to infuse the folk hue to the music. Their songs cover a wide range of topics, but they focus on prevailing social issues like water wastage or the taboo against menstruation. Their music has an idea of catharsis. They want their music to become the voice of our emotions. Yugma believes that the music is the best way to reach out to people as it can make you feel happy, sad, joyful, and many other emotions.
प्रकृति बोल नहीं सकती, प्रकृति के पैगंबर है ये. गंगा में बहता पानी, पक्षियों की चहचहाहट सा संगीत है इनका. जिस बदलाव की हम अपेक्षा करते हैं, वो बदलाव है ये. To bring a melodious change, welcoming none other than Jung with their bit called Go Musical to Go Green.
You may start.
Hi
Yeah.
guys,
Hello.
thank you for the lovely introduction. काफी अच्छा लगा और ऐसा लगा हमें कि हमने कुछ अचीव किया है थोड़ा बहुत. बहुत बहुत थैंक यू. और गुंजन मैम को और पूरी टीम को बहुत शुक्रिया हमें इनवाइट करने के लिए. इट्स आवर 9th TEDx इवेंट और TEDx स्पेशली हमारे बहुत हमेशा से जितने भी इवेंट रहे हैं वो बहुत क्लोज होता है बिकॉज एक्चुअली हमारा म्यूज़िक यहाँ पर जो है मतलब हमें राइट ऑडियंस मिलती है और हमारा म्यूज़िक और अच्छे से निकल के आता है और लोगों को क्लोजली हम अपने गानों के बारे में बता सकते हैं. तो मेरा नाम है अभिषेक जिनगर, इन सर का नाम है मयंक पराशर. हमारा एक छोटा सा बैंड है युग्म ऑफिशियल के नाम से. हम लोग मुंबई रहते हैं और 2016 में बैंड चालू हुआ. उसके बाद सिर्फ एक छोटी सी सोच को लेकर हमने चालू किया था बैंड की जितने भी गाने हैं जो भी हम लिखेंगे या जो भी गाएंगे और कोशिश करेंगे कि उससे अगर कुछ समाज में बदलाव आ सके, लोगों की थॉट प्रोसेस बदल पाए, तो वही हम लोग करते हैं. आज भी वही हमारा मोटिव है. तो थोड़ा हमने आसपास ट्रैवल किया, घूमते गए, लोगों से मिलते गए, बहुत सारी कहानियाँ मिली, बहुत सारी चीज़ें आई. तो हमने एक पहला गाना जो लिखा है और उस गाने का नाम है नीर. पानी के ऊपर वो गाना लिखा है. तो मयंक ने जो वो गाना लिखा है, मयंक थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन करेंगे क्या थॉट था उस गाने के पीछे.
तो इस गाने का नाम है नीर और ये गाना जो भी एनवायरमेंटल क्राइसिस है अभी इस पॉइंट पे और जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा कंसर्न्ड इशू है और शायद होना चाहिए अगर नहीं है तो तो उस पे ही ये बेस्ड गाना है जिसका नाम है नीर। और ये पानी की स्टोरी है, मतलब अगर पानी हमसे कुछ कह पाता तो क्या कहता।
एक छोटा सा मैं इसमें बीच में एक और चीज ऐड करूंगा। हम लोग एक फेस्टिवल में परफॉर्म करने के लिए गए थे आज से कुछ सालों पहले, कबीर यात्रा फेस्टिवल में। जोधपुर के पास एक गांव था, उसमें हम परफॉर्म करने के लिए गए थे। तो वहाँ पे हम बाहर जब दिन में घूम रहे थे तो वहाँ एक अम्मा अपनी छोटी सी झोपड़ी में कुछ ऐसे खाने पीने का सामान बेच रही थी। तो हम वहाँ रुके, तो उनसे हमने बोला कि आप पानी पिला सकते हैं हमें, तो उन्होंने मना कर दिया हमें पानी पिलाने से। तो हमें एकदम से शौक हुआ कि पानी के लिए कोई कैसे मना कर सकता है। तो उन्होंने कहा कि आप 5 लोग ये पानी पीकर चले जाओगे, पर ये मुझे 2 किलोमीटर से भर के लाना पड़ेगा। तो मैंने ये अपने लिए भर के रखा हुआ है। तब हमें रियलाइज हुआ कि हम शहर में रहने वाले लोग कभी इन सब चीज़ों पे ध्यान नहीं देते। हम अपना गुजारा जो है, हमें जैसी पानी की ज़रूरत होगी हम 20 रुपए की बोतल खरीद के ले लेंगे, या कभी हम ब्रश कर रहे हैं तो वो नल चालू रहेगा, पानी वेस्ट हुए जा रहा है। तो वही सब थॉट आया कि अगर पानी की जुबान होती तो वो इंसानों से क्या कहता। गाने का नाम है नीर। नी नी सा सा नी रे सा नी, नी नी सा सा रे मा रे सा, नी नी सा सा नी रे सा नी, नी नी सा सा रे मा रे सा। धरती मांगे बादल का रे, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। धरती मांगे बादल का रे, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। प्यासी झीले प्यासी झीले प्यासी नदिया, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। धरती मांगे बादल का रे, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। धरती मांगे बादल का रे, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। दम घोट के तूने मेरा, क्या कह रहा है? दम घोट के तूने मेरा छीना मुझसे मेरा घर, छीना मुझसे मेरा घर, छीना मुझसे मेरा घर। धरती मांगे बादल का रे, धरती मांगे बादल का रे, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। धरती मांगे बादल का रे, नीर बिन अब सूखा सब। नी नी सा सा, नी नी सा सा, नी नी सा सा, नी नी सा सा। Thank you so much guys, thank you. हाँ, आई होप सबको मजा आ रहा होगा। और जिन लोगों ने
बहुत
वीडियो
ज्यादा।
ऐसे वर्चुअल इवेंट है, लोग दिख नहीं रहे तो अगर वीडियो ऑन करेंगे तो और हमें भी एनर्जी मिलेगी और आपकी वर्चुअल तालियां भी सुनाई देगी, हमें पता लगता रहेगा कि खुश हैं सब लोग सुन के। ओके, तो ये था नीड कि हमने कुछ सालों पहले लिखा। उसके बाद जर्नी जब आगे बढ़ने लगी और हम और खुद को एक्सप्लोर करने लगे, तो बेसिकली हमारे जितने भी गाने हैं वो इसी चीज़ पे बेस्ड है कि हम क्या सोचते हैं। ये एक विचारधारा है जो हम युग्म के बारे में सोचते हैं, कि सिर्फ हम इसको एक बैंड की तरह ट्रीट नहीं करते, कि हम सोसाइटी के बारे में क्या सोचते हैं, हमारे क्या विचार हैं, वही सब हम लिखते हैं अपने गानों में, और लोग उसी में अपने अपनी कहानियाँ ढूंढते हैं, उसी से कनेक्ट करते हैं। इसलिए टचवुड इतना प्यार मिला है, बैंड को बेस्ट बैंड ऑफ राजस्थान का अवार्ड मिला है, 450 समथिंग शोज़ किए हैं हमने, और काफ़ी सारे अच्छे आर्टिस्ट के साथ हमने कोलैबोरेशन किया है। तो कौन सा गाना बैरागी या अनुसार? ठीक है, ओके। तो अगला जो गाना है वो पिछले 1-1.5 साल पहले हमने लिखा था और मयंक ने लिखा है। तो उस गाने का नाम है मन बैरागी हुआ, और वो बहुत ही स्पेशल सॉन्ग है हमारे लिए। और बहुत सारे हमारे जो लोग हैं जो आज हमें सुन रहे हैं, हमारी अपनी ऑडियंस, हमारे दोस्त लोग ज्वाइन किए, उनका भी काफ़ी लोगों का फेवरेट है। सबने बैरागी के लिए हमेशा सब लोग रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं। तो गाने के पीछे की कहानी मयंक बताएंगे एज यूजुअल। हाँ जी सर।
तो आज का जो अपना टॉपिक है वो नेचर के ऊपर है, और नेचर जो सबसे बेसिक बात सिखाता है वो सिखाता है बैलेंस। और जो हम लोग इस गाने में बात करते हैं वो भी एक बैलेंस की बात है। बैलेंस किसमें? राग और बैराग में। हम नेचर की जब बात करते हैं तो वो भी बैलेंस में हो रहा है कि हम लोग अपनी लाइफस्टाइल नेचर के साथ कैसे बैलेंस करते हैं, या फिर नेचर बाकी सारी चीजें खुद को सस्टेन करने के लिए कैसे बैलेंस करता है। वैसे ही राग और बैराग जब हम लोग अपनी लाइफ में बैलेंस कर लेते हैं तो वी बिकम एनलाइटेंड वन। सो फॉर द एनलाइटनमेंट राग और बैराग समझना जरूरी है। और राग और बैराग समझने के लिए कुछ बातें हैं जो कि आप सुन लेनी चाहिए। कि राग मधुर बंदिश है, राग मधुर बंदिश है और बैराग में आजादी। राग सुंदरता है और बैराग अल्हड़। राग अलंकार है जो सबको सजा दे, राग अलंकार है जो सबको सजा दे, और बैराग आफताब जैसा जो सबको जगा दे। राग कभी चंचल तो कभी शीतल, बैराग कभी धैर्य तो कभी पर्वत अटल। और राग माँ की ममता है और बैराग पिता का धर्म। और राग और बैराग है तो क्या? बस जीवन। तो हमने हमारा बैराग हमारे म्यूजिक में ढूंढा, जितने भी हम लोग ट्रैवल करते हैं, जितने भी लोगों से मिलते हैं, उन लोगों में ढूंढा। आप लोग अपना बैराग शायद इस गाने में ढूंढ लें, या फिर हो सकता है ढूंढ चुके हो। मन बैरागी हुआ।
दिशा नहीं पता नहीं चल रहा हूँ, बेरासा बेबाक सा बन जा रहा मैं, सवालों के जवाबों को ढूंढ रहा हूँ। उम्र का कसूर है बेकसूर, मन बैरागी हुआ, मन बैरागी हुआ, मन बैरागी हुआ, मन बैरागी हुआ। आपको लाइफ में रियलाइज हो जाए कि आपको करना क्या है। जिस दिन मुझे धड़कन मिली, थाम लिया राह चुनी, जज्बा उठा किस्मत जगी, सपने नए मैं था वही, यूं लाऊंगा चुन के मैं ख्वाबों को बुन के, क्यों आंखें मिचे यूं खड़ा, दिशा नहीं पता नहीं चल रहा हूँ, बेरासा बेवसा बन जा रहा हूँ मैं, सवालों के जवाबों को ढूंढ रहा हूँ, उम्र का कसूर है बेकसूर मैं। वैसे तो ऐसा होता है कि हम जहाँ भी शो करते हैं तो लोग गाते हैं हमारे साथ, ठीक है। तो आज तो खैर नहीं गा सकते, तो आप ऐसे हाथ खड़े करके हमारे साथ हाथ हिला लीजिएगा सब, ठीक है। चलो 1 2 3 गो। मन बैरागी हुआ, 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 मन बैरागी हुआ। लाइफ में बहुत सारी चीजें होती है जो हम करना चाहते हैं, पर सोसाइटी क्या कहती है, हमें आसपास वाले लोग क्या कहते हैं, हम इस चक्कर में रुक जाते हैं। पर हमें ऐसा लगता है कि जिंदगी में अगर सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट कोई है हमारे लिए तो हम खुद हैं सबसे पहले। अगर आप खुद खुश नहीं हैं तो कोई और को खुश नहीं रख पाओगे। तो वो करो जो आपका मन करता है। अगर आपको अपना बैराग मिला है इस गाने के थ्रू तो ट्राई कीजिएगा, कोशिश कीजिएगा। थैंक यू सो मच।
Loved it. It was so amazing.
Thank you so much, Rajshri. Thank you.
Superb. It was so amazing.
I just had to unmute myself and say it. I couldn't sit muted and say that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
like,
was so amazing.
So
So
glad.
good.
Thank you.
सीधा सोल को जाके टच करता है, you
Oh
know?
God, I wanted to dance, you know.
Same.
मेरा रोने का मन कर रहा था।
तो लाइक सारे दिन का लाइक थकान सा आप लोगों ने लाइक
हाँ, हाँ,
रिलैक्स कर दिया
हाँ,
बिल्कुल।
हाँ, रिलैक्स हो गए।
बहुत बड़ी बात है तो।
So we'll move on to our next song, and that song is called Musafir. और ये गाना जो है अभी हमने recently रिलीज किया है on all the streaming platforms, you can find it. So इस गाने की स्टोरी ऐसी है कि मतलब जितने भी गाने हमने बनाए हैं, जितने भी गाने हमने लिखे हैं, वो सारे ट्रैवल से इंस्पायर्ड हैं। क्योंकि ट्रैवल के टाइम पे हम लोगों से मिलते हैं तो बहुत सारी बातें होती हैं, और उन्हीं बातों से, उन्हीं इश्यूज से निकल के हम लोगों के सॉन्ग्स आते हैं। तो ये कहना बहुत हद तक गलत है कि गाने मैंने लिखे हैं, क्योंकि ये गाने उन सब लोगों ने लिखे हैं जिन्होंने भी हमसे बात करी है। तो ये युग्म जितना हम लोगों का है, सब लोगों का जो भी हमसे कन्वर्सेशंस करते हैं, जितने भी हम लोगों को इंस्पायर करते हैं वो लोग गाना लिखने को। सो दिस सॉन्ग इज बिफोर आई स्टार्ट दिस सॉन्ग, एक छोटा सा पोएट्री पीस है जो कि एक सीड था इस गाने को स्टार्ट करने के लिए। एंड हियर इट गोज कि कुछ कैद नहीं, कुछ बंद नहीं, कुछ कैद नहीं, कुछ बंद नहीं, कुछ जब्र नहीं, आजाद नहीं, कुछ कैद नहीं, कुछ बंद नहीं, कुछ जब्र नहीं, आजाद नहीं, शागिर्द नहीं, उस्ताद नहीं, वीरान नहीं, आबाद नहीं, है जितनी बातें दुनिया की सब भूल गए, कुछ याद नहीं, है अंदर उफान फिर बचपन का, अब कोई शख्सियत खास नहीं, है जितनी बातें दुनिया की सब भूल गए, कुछ याद नहीं।
मुसाफिर हूँ मैं, मुसाफिर हूँ मैं, तलाशने खुद को राहों में, ये हवाएं बुलाती हैं, है मुकम्मल जहां बाकी, ये राहें बुलाती हैं। I am now free from their lies and house, and I can hear the music of my breath and heart, for I am a wanderer, I wanders with all of my heart. मुसाफिर हूँ मैं, काफिर नहीं, तलाशी हूँ मैं मेरी राहें सभी, मुसाफिर हूँ मैं, काफिर नहीं, तलाशी हूँ मैं मेरी राहें सभी, ढूंढने मुझको राहों में हवाएं बुलाए, है मुकम्मल जहां बाकी, ये राहें बुलाए, ढूंढने मुझको राहों में हवाएं बुलाए, है मुकम्मल जहां बाकी, ये राहें बुलाए, डगर डगर भटकता यूं कांटों से संभलता चला, यूं कारवां बनाने खुशबुएं फैलाता चला, मुसाफिर हूँ मैं, कमान काफिर नहीं, तलाशी हूँ मैं मेरी राहें सभी, है अंदर उफान बचपन का, कोई खास नहीं, थी जितनी बातें दुनिया की कोई याद नहीं, है अंदर उफान बचपन का, कोई खास नहीं, थी जितनी बातें दुनिया की कोई याद नहीं, घर से निकल के रिश्तों से फिसल के चला, बाकी सारी दुनिया आंखों में मैं भरने चला, मुसाफिर हूँ मैं। कम ऑन गाइस, हम खुश रहना भूल चुके हैं। नहीं तलाशी में मेरी राहें सभी, मुसाफिर हूँ मैं, काफिर नहीं। तलाशी में मेरी राहें सभी। अक्सर लाइफ में ना ऐसा होता है क्योंकि हमारे पास माहौल ऐसा होता है, हमारे आसपास एनवायरनमेंट और जो इतना मटेरियलिस्टिक दुनिया में जो हम जी रहे हैं, तो हम अक्सर ये भूल जाते हैं कि हमारे जो हाथ पैर हैं, हमारे जो शरीर है जो इतना अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, हम उसको कभी सेलिब्रेट नहीं कर पाते, है ना। हमारा पूरा शरीर इतने अच्छे से चल रहा है, हम लोग गा रहे हैं, खाना खा रहे हैं, सब कुछ पी रहे हैं, हम लोग हमेशा इसी दौड़ में लगे रहते हैं कि हमें ये चाहिए, वो चाहिए, आगे ये सब चीजें अच्छी हो जाए, वो हो जाए, पर हम कभी खुद से प्यार ही नहीं कर पाए। तो ये गाना उन लोगों के लिए जो खुद से प्यार करना भूल गए।
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू
सर,
Amazing.
Thank
Outstanding.
you.
Thank you so much.
mind blowing.
थैंक यू गाइस।
आपने कहा कि हम खुश होना भूल गए, आपने याद दिला दिया।
हाँ सर, आप याद दिलाने के लिए
याद
हो।
दिला दिया।
Yes, Abhishek and Mayank, you people are amazing.
थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच।
Amazing is an understatement.
हाँ
Exactly. I can't find
More than
words to
amazing, I
describe
would
it.
say. More than amazing.
सर, अब हम नहीं, हम लोग अभी भी बचपन में हैं, बट हम और छोटे एज में चले गए थे।
You know, flute has always been one instrument that I've loved out of all of them. And you know, मैंने जब देखा मयंक सर को बजाते हुए इतने अच्छे से, I was just shocked. I was just looking at him, कैसे कर रहे हैं?
तो वो बजाते हैं, he's only playing it, like he's so lost and happy himself, he's so into himself कि हम उन्हें देख के ना
नहीं, we all were jamming to it, and स्पर्श अपना इंडिक फिंगर अलग ही, वो तो गा भी रहा था।
लिरिक्स याद हो गए।
हाँ, like end में तो I was like कि चलो हम भी गा लेते हैं, मतलब म्यूट करके।
Of course.
हाँ जी, कुछ और कुछ पूछना है, कुछ बात करनी है कुछ?
सर, हम आपसे युग्म के बारे में पूछना चाहते हैं कि लाइक आपने क्या मतलब आपने अपना बैंड नेम युग्म क्यों रखा?
तो हमेशा वैसे तो मैं जवाब देता ही हूँ, आज मयंक बताएंगे हमने अपना बैंड का नेम युग्म क्यों रखा।
तो बैंड का नाम युग्म इसलिए रखा क्योंकि एक तो ये हिंदी संस्कृत से डिराइव हुआ है और इसके मायने बड़े सुंदर हैं। इसके मायने ऐसे हैं कि युग्म मतलब होता है दो चीजों का जुड़ना, conjoining of two different elements or two like elements,
two different elements.
So युग्म सिर्फ हम लोगों का ही नहीं, युग्म हमारा और आपका भी युग्म। तो युग्म इसलिए ही किसी एक पर्टिकुलर लोगों का नहीं हो सकता, वो एक मास का हमेशा रहेगा।
और जब बैंड चालू हुआ था एक्चुअली तब पहले हम लोग जब मैं मयंक से मिला नहीं था, उससे पहले की बात है कि सिर्फ इसको हम एक थॉट ऐसे चल रहे थे दिमाग में लेके कि हाँ मतलब म्यूजिक करना है, करेंगे। तो आई रिमेम्बर आई यूज्ड टू परफॉर्म कैफेज, मतलब फ्री में परफॉर्म करना, ये सब करना है ना। तो आफ्टर अ टाइम जब लोगों का हमें प्यार मिलने लगा, लोगों को फोक म्यूजिक हमारे से अच्छा लगने लगा, हमारे गाने अच्छे लगने लगे, तो फिर आपको समझ आता था ना, आपको एक वैलिडेशन मिल जाता है कि आप कुछ कर रहे हो, तो एक डायरेक्शन मिल जाती है कि हाँ सच में लोगों को फर्क पड़ रहा है आपकी गाने से, म्यूजिक से। तो तब डिसाइड हुआ कि इसको क्या नाम, इसको कुछ आइडेंटिटी देनी चाहिए, कुछ नाम देना चाहिए। तो पहले हमने इसको प्रोजेक्ट युग्म के नाम से दिया था। तो उस टाइम पे सिर्फ ये एक प्रोजेक्ट की तरह था कि हाँ अगर लाइफ में कुछ हुआ, बट इवेंचुअली आफ्टर 2-3 ईयर इतना प्यार मिला लोगों से।
प्रोजेक्ट जो था वो एक टेम्परेरी चीज थी, पर फिर वो एक हैशटैग युग्म फॉर लाइफ में कन्वर्ट हो गया,
ऐसा वाला।
सो
तो मतलब वही है कि जितना हमें एक्चुअली, हम लोग कोई बहुत ज्यादा पैसे कमाते नहीं है ना, बहुत ज्यादा हम कुछ ऐसा कुछ हमारे पास है नहीं, और बैंड से कोई बहुत ज्यादा फाइनेंशियली हम लोग स्ट्रांग नहीं है, बट जो हमें प्यार मिला है लोगों का, जो हमारे लोग हमसे कनेक्टेड हैं, वो इतना उस लेवल पे है कि हमें कभी ये सब डाउट ही नहीं आते कि बैंड को हमें कुछ करना चाहिए, बैंड को छोड़ें या बैंड को बंद करें। वो उस लेवल पे, मतलब पैसा वैसा तो ठीक है आप कमा लेते हो, पर प्यार अगर आप जिंदगी में किसी का कमा रहे हो वो बहुत बड़ी बात है। हम लोगों का इतना कनेक्टिविटी होती है, तो
हमारा कमा लिया सर आज आपने। सर हमारा
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
हमारा पता है अभी एक और हम सोच रहे थे कि हम आपसे पूछेंगे कि आपको क्या लगता है कि म्यूजिक में ऐसी क्या पावर है जो लोगों को इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकती है, बट देन अभी एक्सपीरियंस करके म्यूजिक आपका मतलब ये पूरा सुन के हमें आंसर मिल गया।
वो पावर हमें
Like-
नहीं, हम इन्फ्लुएंस हो गए
अलग ही लेवल पे।
We felt that power.
और अच्छा, बहुत मतलब म्यूजिक है ही इतनी खूबसूरत चीज ना, एक म्यूजिक अकेली ऐसी चीज है जो आपको आपकी लाइफ के हर तरह के मूड्स में आपको कहीं ना कहीं म्यूजिक मिल जाएगा। मतलब ये एक ऐसा इसका बहुत पावरफुल है, आप जब दुखी होते हो तब ऐसे गाने सुनते हो, खुश होते हो तब खुशी वाले गाने सुनते हो, ऐसा। तो ये म्यूजिक की बहुत खूबसूरत बात है कि आपको वो इमोशंस जो है आपके अंदर बहते रहते हैं म्यूजिक के थ्रू, वो बहुत अच्छी चीज है। और कुछ ऐड करना चाहते हैं?
मतलब मैं इसको, ये जो आज का वो क्या कहते हैं इसको टॉपिक है नेचर से, उससे रिलेट करना चाह रहा था कि नेचर में मतलब जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं ना कि ये स्टार्टिंग सब कुछ एक बिग बैंग थ्योरी से हुई है, तो ये बिग बैंग थ्योरी को भी उसमें हम एक साउंड डेवलप हुआ है ना। बिग बैंग थ्योरी हुआ तो मतलब वो बिग बैंग जब हुआ तो साउंड आया, और वो साउंड मतलब शुरू से, मतलब जब सब कुछ स्टार्ट हुआ था तब से वो साउंड एग्जिस्ट कर रहा है। तो मतलब जब कुछ भी नहीं था तब सबसे पहले म्यूजिक या फिर एक साउंड डेवलप हुआ था। तो ऐसा है कि जो एक होता है नाद, एक अंतर्नाद, तो एक नाद जो होता है वो पूरे यूनिवर्स में ट्रैवल करता है, और अंतर्नाद जो आपके अंदर जो साउंड है वो। तो हम लोग तो पूरी तरह से म्यूजिक से जुड़े हुए हैं, जिसको म्यूजिक बाहर निकालना आता है, जो अंदर है वो बाहर निकालना आता है, वो उनको हम लोग म्यूजिशियन बोल देते हैं, एक टैग दे देते हैं। पर देखा जाए तो सब लोग म्यूजिशियन है, और सबके अंदर म्यूजिक होता है। कोई भी चीज, बहुत छोटे छोटे एलिमेंट्स, आप ये मान लो कि ये बर्ड्स की चिरपिंग मान लो, या फिर कुछ भी चीज जो भी नेचर से रिलेटेड है, वो सब चीजें घूम फिर के म्यूजिक से कनेक्ट होती हैं।
हाँ जी, और कुछ?
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर बीइंग हियर, और सर थैंक यू वेरी मच कि आप आए, हमसे बात करी और हमें लाइव गाना सुनाया। नाउ
our pleasure.
over to you. Yeah, our pleasure, sir. Now over to you, Lakshita.
Wow, thank you so much for being here and for letting us experience this. Like, abhi main jo bhi bolungi, it would be an understatement, I guess, because this was just amazing. I can't really express it in words. I'm so happy right now after listening to their music. It's just amazing.
I want to meet you every year, every month, every day now.
Yeah, we all want to.
अच्छा, मैं एक बीच में छोटी सी बात बोलूँगा। हमने एक मतलब एक रिसेंटली एक गाना लिखा है, वो नेचर के ऊपर ही, और हम चाहते थे कि आज वो सुनाए। तो वो अगर एक दो लाइन हम सुना पाए, अगर अलाउ करें आप तो।
हाँ, प्लीज गो अहेड।
चलो,
डेफिनेटली
लिखा है तो वो एक्चुअली सुनाना
नेकी और पूछ पूछ।
उसकी सिर्फ एक दो लाइन सुनाना।
तो ये आरे फॉरेस्ट में जो भी हो रहा था, मेट्रो के लिए आरे फॉरेस्ट काटे जा रहे थे मुंबई में, ये उसी पे बेस्ड है ये दो लाइंस।
मतलब गाने का नाम है तुझे सब कुछ चाहिए। इंसान की फितरत कैसी होती ना कि हमें लाइफ में सब चाहिए होता है, जहाँ हम हैं वहाँ पे नहीं होके हमें हमेशा हमारा दिमाग कहीं और दौड़ रहा होता है, वो चाहिए, ये चाहिए,
गर्मी में सर्दी चाहिए, सर्दी में गर्मी चाहिए।
तो हम एक दिन ऐसे बैठे थे घर पे, तो ऐसे दिमाग में कुछ आया तो सुनाते हैं आपको, सब कुछ चाहिए। हो गई रे तुझको कुछ भी चाहिए, तुझे सब कुछ ही चाहिए रे मूर्ख, कुछ भी चाहिए रे। हद्दी हो गई रे तुझको कुछ भी चाहिए, तुझे सब कुछ ही चाहिए रे मूर्ख, कुछ भी चाहिए। पेड़ों को तू काट के बोला मेट्रो चाहिए, पेड़ों को तू काट के बोला मेट्रो चाहिए, पर वेकेशन की लोकेशन रेट्रो चाहिए। पेड़ों को तू काट के बोला मेट्रो चाहिए, पर वेकेशन की लोकेशन रेट्रो चाहिए। नेचर की तू वाट लगा के, नेचर की तू वाट लगा के, क्या बोला भैया?
वातावरण फ्रेंडली चाहिए
रे मूर्ख, कुछ भी चाहिए, तुझे सब कुछ ही चाहिए रे मूर्ख, कुछ भी चाहिए, तुझे सब कुछ ही चाहिए। सर्दी में गर्मी चाहिए, गर्मी में सर्दी चाहिए, बातें सीरियस भी चाहिए, एंटरटेनिंग भी चाहिए।
Thank you
so
Sir,
much
wow.
guys,
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
guys, thank you Gunjan ma'am and पूरी टीम को इनवाइट करने के लिए।
Thank you, Abhishek and Mayank, for being here. Thank you so much. I mean,
Follow us on Instagram and
yeah, I
Facebook.
follow you everywhere. I follow you everywhere, and so will my students.
Sir, one more thing. Sir, हमारे स्पर्श का एक क्वेश्चन था, ये Spotify पे कब आ रहा है?
अच्छा, ये
ये
गाना
वाला गाना
करेंगे यार, अभी
हाँ।
थोड़ा अभी कोरोना की वजह से सब कुछ चीजें रुक चुकी हैं, तो होपफुली जल्दी सब कुछ प्लान करेंगे।
सर, आप
अभी
कहीं भी अपलोड कर दो, बस हमें बता देना।
सर, अपलोड करो पहले।
तो गाने अपलोड करते हो
Spotify. हाँ।
ओके गाइस,
बाय।
ध्यान रखें आप सब
Bye,
लोग
sir.
अपना,
Bye, sir.
मिलना होगा।
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you so much.
थैंक यू।
After such a wonderful session, let's move forward. A software professional from Chhattisgarh, Mr. Kapil Sharma, moved to Bengaluru about 11 years ago. Shocked at the rate the city's green cover was vanishing, he soon started planting trees across the city during weekends. Fast forward 13 years, and he has amazingly planted over 6 lakh saplings all over Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Noida, Lucknow, etc. He has also founded an NGO called Say Trees, dedicated to saving the environment and making the city greener by taking the message to different institutions, villages, and communities. The Say Trees initiative is creating forests in rural areas so the farmers may receive some help in procuring fruit saplings to earn a parallel income. Say Trees have also started to rejuvenate lakes and have rejuvenated 4 lakes so far. The fact that amazes me and awes me the most is that how a simple reaction to a situation turned into such a prominent part of couple's life. So, to share with us his story, coming up next is Mr. Kapil Sharma.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me to talk about Say Trees. It's an initiative which started long back, and it is going strong. Okay, and it is growing, and we are putting more efforts year after year because we know what we are fighting against. So I'll start by telling how it's all started. Okay, So the first time I came to Bangalore was long, long ago to give an entrance exam. Apart from train full of students who were studying throughout their journey, what shocked me most that the classroom where I was giving my exam had no fans. Okay. So the engineer inside me wondered why. So I come from a place where temperature during summer is so high that you cannot survive without water coolers or fans, and you cannot step outside your house during peak hours. Okay. I remember calling my parents during summer, and they used to say that the temperature is 48, 49 degrees, and whereas in Bangalore it used to rain. Okay. So Bangalore hardly had any summer. It was a garden city in true sense. Okay. Every hot day brought evening showers there. There were huge trees everywhere. Roads were lined up with trees, both sides, and pleasant weather all around the year. That's what Bangalore was known for. But this started to change. Okay. So around 2005, 2006, trees in the cities were being brought down left, right, center. So the roads which were covered with trees a day before were exposed to sun the very next day. This is what was happening almost in many parts of the city because of many development projects which were happening. And this became a frequent scene. Okay. And I could not see these trees being brought down. Okay. So something I valued so much was being destroyed in front of my eyes. It hurt me so bad that I started off. I thought of doing something. I have to do something because I valued it so much. And coming from a place where the summers were so harsh, coming to a place where the weather is so nice, I could not just see that the trees are going down, and Bangalore can also become like any other cities where summers are so harsh. So I started visiting government offices to find out what I can do as a citizen and as a nature lover. Okay. So basically, after meeting a lot of people, I realized that the only thing which I can do is to plant more and more saplings to make sure that Bangalore still has its green cover. So I started planting sapling in places where I can keep them safe. I planted my first sapling outside my house in 2007. Okay, so it was a badam sapling, and this continued over the years. I was meeting people. I was reaching out to officers to find out what can be done, and I continued, from one sapling to 100 sapling to 1,000 saplings. And in this journey, I met many other nature lovers who joined this green journey of mine. They came, they met me every weekend. We used to plant saplings. We used to, maintain the saplings during summer. That's what started. So this was happening, from a few volunteers to many nature lovers. They all joined me in this journey. But I felt that this is not enough, because of my 9 to 5 job, I was getting time only on weekends. So at this pace, I won't be able to make a big difference. The rate at which saplings were being brought down was too high. Okay. You know, our efforts have to be more than what is happening. So I felt that it is not enough. If I just keep planting saplings on weekend, it is not going to make big difference. So what I did was I started reaching out to like-minded people. I started reaching out to corporate to see if they want to join hands in this fight against climate change and in this fight against reduction of green cover in cities. Okay. And this worked. And corporate started to join us to plant saplings by engaging their volunteers. Okay. So I was now planting saplings in school campuses and lakes and any place where I feel the saplings can be taken care of and they grow to become trees. The whole idea was that, plant them in place where you can take care of them and make sure that they grow to become trees. That was the most important thing. I was not looking at, the quantity. Quality was more important for me. Maintenance was the most challenging part, and I was only focusing on that because I wanted the highest survival rate of saplings, and I wanted every sapling I plant to grow to become trees. Okay. So, volunteers used to, and now also they join us to plant sapling during monsoon. Okay. And then they join us back during summer when we take care of these saplings. Okay. So I made sure that we complete this cycle. Okay. And just don't plant the saplings and move ahead. We have to plant saplings and then take care of them. We have to be with the saplings for more than 2 to 3 years until they are stable to grow on their own. And that is what I was focusing on. I was making sure that any sapling I plant, I should be able to take care of them and make it grow into trees. Okay. So this is what was happening. And we started getting more and more, more and more people joined, more and more corporates started to show interest. As it is said, the reward of good work is more work. And that's what started to happen. More and more people joined us in this journey. They appreciated our efforts and they liked what we are doing. Okay. So in the year 2015, I was attending the World Forestry Congress in South Africa. This was organized by United Nations. So I was invited by the United Nations to attend the event because of my efforts towards increasing green cover of the nation, and efforts towards engaging people, making them aware of the need of trees for our survival. So because of this, I was invited to this event. At this event, I was interacting with people from many countries. Okay, people from all across the globes were there, and they were working on some amazing initiatives. So, but the thing which struck me most was agroforestry. So, what is agroforestry now? So, agroforestry is the interaction of agriculture and trees, which means, you plant fruit-bearing saplings with farmers, so that once the tree grows, farmers can earn parallel income by selling fruit from these trees, and they can continue to growing their crops which they have been growing. So we don't have to stop them from what they are doing. Okay, we plant fruit trees additionally with what they are doing currently, and when the tree grows, they can start selling these fruits every year and earn a parallel income. Okay, so when I realized that farmers can be helped financially by planting these fruit bearing saplings, I wasted no time and decided to plant saplings with them. Okay, I was anyways planting saplings in cities and a lot of other places. I thought, why not plant it with farmers as well and help them to earn a parallel income? And while doing this, I was also making sure that we are increasing the green cover of our nation. So, by just doing one thing, you are achieving two results. So, and 2015 was the year where farmer suicides in India increased by 42%, and indebtedness was listed as the primary reason for suicide by farmers. And I felt that I can surely help some farmers by ensuring that they earn a basic parallel income by selling fruits that grow in their land. So I was just trying to make sure that they every year they should not depend on someone else to support their life. Okay, they have these trees growing in their land, they can sell fruits from their land and earn a small income, which is small income for many, but which is more than enough for them. Okay, they are so humble, so nice. It is amazing. It is something amazing which they like it, and we have been talking to them and they value it so much. So I was determined to do something. So I started making calls from South Africa itself even before I left from there. And before I returned back, I had decided that I am supporting 11 farmers with 4,000 mango saplings. So these farmers were in Anantapur district of Andhra Pradesh, one of the most drought hit region in the country. But the farmers there were so excited about this initiative that they came forward and said that yes, we will support you in this because it was something for them. Okay, they were going to benefit from them. So the farmers which I supported in 2015, right when I was in South Africa attending the World Forestry Congress, these farmers are now earning income ranging from 80,000 rupees to 1.2 lakh rupees per year. And this is going to increase. It's a parallel income. It is going to increase as the tree grows. Okay, these are mango trees. The farmers we planted, in 2015, they had mango trees. After that, we have planted many fruit varieties with every farmer. Okay, so we all can imagine how this is empowering the farmers, right? It is empowering them financially. And this continued year after year. And in 2019, I got to plant about 85,000 saplings with 250 farmers. So last year we were able to help about 250 farmers through our agroforestry project, planting fruit saplings with them, various kind of fruit saplings: mango, guava, pomegranate, papaya, and anjeer, and many more. We planted so many varieties with them so that they get multiple layer of fruit bearing saplings in their land along with the crop which they have been growing. So I'm determined to do much. I'm determined to do as much as I can, as I know that I'm not only planting saplings to increase the green cover, but I'm helping our farmers as well. So this was the agroforestry project, and luckily many organizations have joined hand with me in this, and they are helping us every year to support many more farmers, and they are doing this under their CSR initiatives. And I'm very thankful to these organizations who are coming forward every year and supporting our projects to help these farmers. So yeah, I mean, planting saplings in a lot of places with the aim of making sure that they grow to become trees. In this journey, I have planted saplings in more than 30 lakes so far. So while creating forest in one of the lake in 2017, I got an opportunity to rejuvenate a lake. We were creating a forest in this lake, and talking to a gentleman there, we got to know that we can rejuvenate a lake. I could not stop myself and made sure that I rejuvenate lake as well, because when I was in Bangalore, I used to face a lot of water problems when I was there. Okay. So, and the history behind water in Bangalore is that in Bangalore, water used to be available at few hundred feet, but now it has gone down to more than 2000 feet. This is what the condition of water level in Bangalore is. Bangalore used to have more than 1000 lakes once upon a time. Now hardly 200 remains. You know, it was such a huge concern that I thought that I should do something about it. And when I felt that I can do something about it, I did not waste any time. I jumped into it and started rejuvenating lake. So far we have already rejuvenated 3 lakes, and the fourth one is going on as I speak. And 2 more lakes will be rejuvenated from this year end. Okay. Now each of these lakes have a water holding capacity of about 150 to 250 million liters of water. So you can imagine, if we are rejuvenating 4 lakes, we are increasing the water holding capacity by 1 billion liters of water. So next year, we are hoping that we'll be able to rejuvenate many, many more lakes, and the water conservation capacity or the water holding capacity we can increase by about 5 billion liters of water. So we have to rejuvenate many, many more lakes next year to reach this target, and to make sure that our lakes are protected, they are saved. Okay. Many international organizations are joining me in this initiative to rejuvenate lakes, and they are helping us every year. Few came forward last year. They are supporting us this year as well, and they are very happy with the efforts which we are putting together and rejuvenating these lakes within no time and making them ready. Okay. So I hope to rejuvenate as many lakes as possible in as many locations as I can. That is the target. We are trying to just make sure that we utilize the resources around us and do as much as work as we can. These lakes are a very important part of our ecosystem. Okay. So healthy lakes and their shores, they not only provide us number of environment benefits, but they influence our quality of life as well. Okay. Proper lake functions can ease the impact of floods and droughts by storing large amount of water and releasing it during the shortages. So you store water when it is raining, and this water will help you during shortages. Will not be dependent on something else. Okay. So lake also work to replenish groundwater. They positively influence the water quality of downstream water resources. It is very important, and they preserve the biodiversity and the habitat of the area as well. They play a very, very important role in our the entire ecosystem. Okay. And we have to respect them, we have to care for them, and if we do that, they can sustain a healthy balance of aquatic life as well. Okay. So they are very important part of our entire ecosystem, and we have to make sure that they are not vanishing basically. Okay. Any city which has X number of lakes, we have to make sure that it remains X, and it does not go to X by 2 or X by 4 or any other number. If it is 10 lakes, make sure your 10 lakes are there. If it's 100 lakes, make sure you have 100 lakes in the city. Okay. We should not lose our lakes. They are very, very important. So what started with one sapling outside my home back in 2007 has turned into an organization now. Okay. An organization of more than 25 people, whose only job is to create forest and to rejuvenate lakes. Okay. The only job of these 25 people are now to create forest, as many forests as we can, and in as many cities as we can. We are, as told earlier, we are trying to create forest in many, many cities. Okay. And because people liked our work, they believed us, and they started supporting us. So we are working in more than 9 states now to create forests, and we are doing everything in our hand. We are trying a lot of things to make sure that our results are good. Okay. And they help us, they help us to do more. That is what the aim is. Okay. So, and we are losing our forest at a very high rate. Okay. We are losing our forest. I was reading somewhere that we are losing about a forest of a size of a football field in every 6 seconds. So can you imagine, losing a forest of the size of a football field in every 6 seconds? It is huge. Okay. Our efforts has to be similar or even more. Then only we'll be able to, we'll be able to stop the results of these things which are happening. Okay. Then only we'll be able to support Mother Earth. We cannot just keep destroying these natural resources. Okay. We have to support Mother Earth to make sure that Mother Earth also supports us back. Okay. So we are losing forests at a very fast pace, and we need to get them back at even faster pace. Okay. So while doing all of this, I'm making sure, being a software engineer myself, I'm making sure that I make use of technology to get even better results. Okay. I'm supporting various researches so that we have solution to as many problems as we can. Okay. 2 years back, I supported a team of scientists who were creating drones for seed bombing. Basically, use of drones to afforest large patches of land using drones. So I supported this project with scientists in Bangalore. Last year, I joined hand with one of the most reputed organization to study our forests, the forest which we have been creating. I just don't want to blindly create forests here and there. It has to be meaningful. Our work has to be meaningful. So, last year I supported this research where the people are, they are researching our forest which we have been creating. Okay, they are doing this research in Bangalore and other cities as well. They are going to all our forests, okay, and checking these forests, studying these forests, and giving us inputs that, okay, this is better, you can improve this, and this is something you can change. So this is what is happening. I'm supporting a research this year as well. Very soon it will be out, and people will come to know about what that is. Okay. In this journey of mine, I have also been creating various campaigns to spread awareness among the citizens. One of the campaign which I created in 2016 was called the Silent Tree Protest. It was a campaign which got viral, and it was appreciated from many countries. Okay. And when this happened, I requested these people from different countries to do the same in their countries and in their language, and people did that. Okay. They engaged students, and they created these posters of Silent Tree Protest in their own language, and they shared the pictures with me. I felt so good that people from all across the globe came forward. They joined the same movement. They created similar posters in their language, and they shared it. So it was an amazing thing. And that is why the whole aim is that more and more people know about the survival, how saplings are helping us, how these trees are important for us, why these trees are important for us. So I have been creating campaigns using which I can spread awareness to as many people as I can. Okay. So now, why I'm telling you all this, my initiatives of planting trees, and then agroforestry, helping farmers, and then rejuvenating lakes. So why I'm telling all of you, why I'm telling all of this, and why we are doing all of this. Okay. Because I want each and everyone to know that climate change is real. Okay. And it cannot be solved until each one of us puts some efforts. It's a very serious issue. Okay. It's a very serious issue, and it is impacting every one of us in some way or the other, and it is going to impact every one of us in future as well. Okay. And if I can do this, then so can each one of you. Everyone can do this. Okay. If you see a problem, then just don't ignore it. You should try to solve it. Okay. So you should be concerned when you use a plastic bottle to drink water for a few minutes, but then this bottle can stay it can stay around for more than 100-200 years. So you use a product. Okay. You are done in few minutes, but this product, the outcome of this product, or the waste from this product, can lie around for more than 100 years. It is very concerning. Okay. It is very concerning. So you should be concerned if you hear about thousands of acres of forest being brought down. Okay. We should not allow that. You should be concerned when more than 40 lakh acres of forest burn in a single year. This has happened in USA this year. Okay. So, and this list can go on. Okay. It's a long list of, things we should be thinking about. Nothing big. These are very small things. but if you start thinking about it, they really make a lot of difference. Okay, and we don't need someone to point this out. It should come from us. Okay, these are just very, very simple things which you all will start to notice. You'll start to notice, when you start loving nature and when you start showing care. Okay, just think about it. Any resources which you feel is getting wasted, think about it, how you can prevent it, whether it is switching off lights in time, whether it is not wasting water or utilizing only the amount you need, not wasting food, anything, any natural resources which you see. Okay, so you should think that, am I wasting something? Okay, stop using plastic. When I go to stores, I don't, even for a small thing, if they give a plastic bag, I don't take it. you know I'll bring 5 items in one hand and another 5 items in one hand if I can, but I'll not take plastic. And this is what we should be doing, because it is so harmful. Plastic has gone into us now, and if we don't stop, it'll be, the condition will be even bad. Okay, so, and if I can do all of this along with a 9 to 5 job, anybody can do the same. It's not a rocket science. Okay, we just need to love our mother earth. Okay, we just need to show some respect, we just need to show some care. We cannot just keep utilizing the resources without giving it back. Okay, we cannot just uh, create issues. We cannot just create issues for our environment. Okay, we need to think. Okay, and my bucket list is long. I have been working on a lot of things. I worked on trees for a decade, created forests. Then I moved into, we are now rejuvenating lakes as well. We are helping farmers. I wish to work on plastic. I wish to work on waste. We have done some small initiative in solar as well. Okay, so my bucket list is long, and I'll try to solve as many problems as I can. But we feel we have limited time left, and the clock is ticking. Okay, the time you see here at the top is the time we have left to make things better. Okay, and this clock shows the time we have left to stop global temperature increase beyond 1.5 degrees. Okay, so 2030 is the deadline. We have to stop the global temperature increase beyond 1.5 degrees. And if we cannot stop this, then we'll start to see more catastrophic events across the globe. Okay, and you should not think that you will not be impacted. Each one of us will be impacted. Okay, and any one of us can be impacted, and we will be impacted. So I have taken this deadline very seriously, and I'll make sure that my efforts are exponential in next 10 years. Whatever I have been doing has to be exponential. The next year efforts have to be exponential, and it should only grow, because the clock is ticking. It's going in the reverse direction. We don't have infinite time available with us. Okay, we have limited time with us, so our efforts have to be exponential. Otherwise, we'll not be able to make, we'll regret. The only thing I can say is we'll regret. This is how SATRI started. SATRI started with a thought that if I don't do something, I'll regret 10 years from now or 15 years from now, that I should have done something. When I had time, I should have done something. Okay, so this is why the time is now, and we should do something. Otherwise, we are going to regret, and we'll regret about small things. We'll feel that these were small things, we should have taken care of it. Okay, in fact, from today, I'm going to announce it here that from today, SATRI's website will show the same countdown timer, which will stop on 5th June 2030. 5th June is World Environment Day, and this counter will stop on 2030. If you go to SATRI's website now, satris.org, you will see a counter there which has started clicking. Okay, and this counter is going to remind me every moment that I need to act. I go to SATRI's website every day. Okay, and this is the place which has been pushing me to do more and more, but this counter is now reminding me that we have only these many days left. Okay, so the counter is there in SATRI's website, and we have made it live few minutes back itself. So you can go to the website now, and you can see the same counter which has started there now. So I'll do everything possible in my hand and fight climate change. Okay, this is what I have been doing. Okay, and I'm sure I'll give a tough fight to the same, because this is the only thing I think about. Okay, I don't think about anything before sleeping and after getting up in the morning. I only think, how can I create more forests? Okay, how can I rejuvenate more lake? How can I reach out to more and more people to tell them that please stop wasting our resources? It's a very, very big problem and cannot be solved unless we all come together. Okay, we have to come together. We have to put efforts towards saving our beautiful planet, as there is no planet B. Okay, there is no planet B, And I would like to just say that everybody should come forward and say trees. Thank you so much. I hope this has been a good session, and I was able to convey everything about Say Trees initiative. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a stimulating speech. We have some questions to ask you.
Sure.
Yes, sir. So, sir, when did you start this, like this program? Did you ever think that you would be able to plant 6 lakh saplings all across the India?
Yeah, I mean, when I started it, frankly speaking, as I told earlier, I was not thinking about how many I'll plant. I was only thinking about how many can grow to become trees. But as I went on, I thought that it is not enough because I was having a job, 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday. I could not find time during these days of the week. I was only getting weekends. So after some time, I started to feel that this is not enough, as I said. But the aim was to plant as many as we can and protect as many as we can. Over the years, this started to change. Now you can say I'm more hungry to plant more and more saplings. Why not 6 lakhs and so 6 lakhs so far? Okay, why not we take care of the same count of saplings every year from now? As I said, efforts have to be exponential, and we have to protect as many saplings as we can and help them to grow to become trees. So yes, it was not, I did not think about the count earlier. Okay, but now looking at the current situation, we need as many trees as we can. So yes, I mean, I hope I answered your question. That initially
Yes.
I was not knowing this, but now I want to do as much as I can. And there is no number in mind now. Okay, every year I just think that let me plant saplings where I can keep them safe. Okay, there have been many requests which we have rejected as well because we felt we could not take care of those saplings. Okay, so quality matters more than the quantity. So, but yes, we're trying to make sure that we plant as much as we can.
So another question is by our Indic winger who's here, Sparsh Nitin. He has recently started an organization. Its name as Stray Gets Help. So he just wanted to ask that as teens, he and his partner, how can they continue to take this organization at a good position?
So what was the name of the organization you said?
Stray Gets Help.
Stray Gets Help.
Yes, it's named Stray Gets Help. It's mainly an organization for stray animals.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my friend she pinged me that she wanted to start such kind of a thing. So I was straight away in, but now we're in a tiff that how do we take this forward? Because as teens, we don't have much access to finance. Okay, and
Okay.
during the pandemic situation, we can't go out. So how do we take
Okay.
this forward?
Yeah, I mean, pandemic has affected everyone. In fact, us as well. Our plan, we had so many plans this year, but we could not do any one of them. Okay. So, but yeah, what you can do is initially just, I always believe in starting small. Okay. Strengthening our base. Okay. Start small, strengthen your base, and take help from people who can be with you for a long term. They can guide you. Basically, you need guidance, and don't think big initially. Try to make your base stronger. Okay, whatever you have thought of, whatever scale or whatever your ambitions are, just make sure you keep doing it in a small pace, taking guidance from different people in the same field. Okay, take their guidance, and you will see that slowly you yourself will start to figure out that what is best for this initiative and what is not. The only thing I would say is don't give up. Okay, there will be many instances where you will feel that why I'm doing this, and it happens to me every quarter basically. Okay, I can say that it happens to me also every quarter why I'm doing this. And this happens when we face some challenges. Okay, so we also face many challenges every now and then, and sometimes I'll feel why am I doing this. Okay, but that is where you just need to stop, pause, think, and then take a step ahead and see that okay, no problem. Let's see, let's learn from whatever we have done and keep moving forward. Okay, so that is what just keep doing it, and take inputs from people who are experienced in the same field. Basically, that will be more important.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
I hope your question was answered, Sparsh.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes,
so
it
much,
definitely
sir,
was.
for being here today with us. Now over to you,
Thank you so
Rashi.
much.
Um, Thank you, everyone, Sparsh, Anna, for asking this question, and thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. Um, Now we will move on to the next session of the day. Um, Lakshita, Barack Obama once said, um, to truly transform our economy, protect our security, and save our planet from the ravages of climate change, we need to ultimately make clean, renewable energy the profitable kind of energy. And I couldn't agree more to this statement.
That's true, Rashi. But see, I'm not really sure that how many of us really know the relation between economy and climate change. So, the next set of speakers are here to enlighten us further on this very important aspect of climate change.
So the first speaker of the session is Mr. Karan Bhasin, a young economist who holds a master's degree from Terry School of Advanced Studies and a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of London. He has diverse research interests spanning areas such as microeconomics, monetary economics, institutional economics, and political economy. He has worked with multiple think tanks in the past.
A regular columnist, he writes for major digital publishing platforms, leading Indian magazines, and newspapers. We welcome amongst us Mr. Karan Bhasin.
Yeah, good evening, all. The topic for this session is going to be the economic implications of climate change. And I have a short presentation that I would like to share. But before I go and discuss, the contents of today's presentation, I just want to give you a brief structure of the way, I've organized my thoughts on this particular issue. And broadly, what I've done over here is quintessentially, I've broken down the presentation into three parts. First of this is, of course, talking about climate change and what it really means or what really its implications are. And this is followed by, how economics as a discipline deals with some of these issues, which is, of course, then followed by what would be the economic implications of climate change. And the reason that I've structured this presentation, or rather my talk, in this particular manner is because I believe this gives you a comprehensive understanding of why economic progress is not in conflict with environmental sustainability. In fact, as a matter of fact, they both are mutually sort of inclusive. You cannot have economic growth without ensuring environmental sustainability. And this is important to understand because over the last couple of years, we have seen many people talk about how economic interests and environmental interests are at a state of conflict. And the way we view it, or rather the way we know it to be now, it is not the case that they are in conflict. With this, I'd like to start with my presentation, we'll get to know more as we proceed further. So I'll just go on to my first slide. Uh, a lot of people in general do not really understand what climate change means, and this causes a lot of sort of difference in understanding, in perceptions, and so on and so forth. So climate change basically describes a change in average conditions over a period of time. So it comprises of change in conditions such as temperature, rainfall, extreme weather conditions, etc. But the key point over here is that it has to happen in a particular region over a period of time. And that's the operative word of what really constitutes as climate change. So suppose for 1 year, if you have uh, excessive rainfall, that does not amount to climate change. But if on an average, over 3 to 4 years, we experience an increase in rainfall in a particular region, then that itself points that okay, something is not well, or there's some anomaly in the weather patterns, or there's some sort of shift that has happened. So as I said, in a region over a long period of time, that's the operated word over here. Now, how do we know that climate change is real? Well, NASA scientists have actually used geospatial data. Geospatial data is basically using satellite images and satellite data and amongst other sources. And what they found is that Earth's surface is warming, and most of the warmest years on record have actually happened in the last 20 years. And that's very interesting, because when you look at it, that what it really means is that Earth is sort of warming up, and this process has happened a lot faster over the last 20 years. So that's again something that we need to keep in mind. For certain real life instances, frequent forest fires that we observe in different parts of the world. This year itself, we saw a massive fire in Australia, and the impact was devastating. And similarly, forest fires have also become more frequent in the U.S., in California, and certain parts or certain other states of the U.S. Now, these forest fires are also sort of not something that are something that weren't really heard of so frequently before, and they really sort of point out at the fact that yes, indeed, there have been erratic changes in weather patterns, and a consequence of this is, of course, that glaciers are melting due to global warming as a consequence of climate change. As a matter of fact, a lot of us have studied that glaciers are melting at an unprecedented pace while we were in school, or when we were in younger classes. So the key thing that we must ask is that it's probably been 10, 20 years since we have been talking about it, but what has changed? And the answer is that nothing has changed really. I mean, of course, there's a more conversation around climate change and what needs to be done, but it hasn't really translated into economic sort of or rather policy sort of response from governments. And that's again something that we're going to talk about in the later half of this talk. But while we move to the next slide, the last point that we need to understand is that climate change is intricately linked to economic activity. That is, that if there is economic activity, there is going to be some amount of pollution. But that does not mean that, so it's like a trade-off, and all economics is based on trade-off. And what it really means is that you can sort of have a long-run trade-off where you cannot grow after doing considerable amount of damage to environment in a longer period of time, but that does not mean that in the short run you cannot grow by affecting the climate. And that's something that we need to really understand. Another point that's also important is that if you take a very long view of history of the planet Earth, in last 650,000 years, there have been 7 cycles of abrupt climate changes. And the last one was the abrupt of the ice age about 11,700 years ago. And that is where the modern climate era sort of originated, which was conducive for human civilization. Now, here's the sort of scary part. The changes in climate conditions have really happened over a long period of time before. In contrast, now climate is changing at an unprecedented pace in a very short span of time. That's what is a concern. Most of these climate changes are attributed to very small variations, historically in Earth's orbit over the natural course of time. The present particular shift is actually a doing of what humans have done to the planet post-industrial revolution. And the current warming trend is of particular significance because most of it is due to a result of human activity since mid-20th century. And that is exactly when, we shifted towards greater use of fossil fuels. The carbon footprint expanded at an unprecedented level. So on one hand, we saw a significant increase in global activity. At the same time, we saw an acceleration in carbon footprint of the world and, a sort of increase in global warming. And this is exactly what sort of I wanted to stress upon, because I said in the starting that there is, you cannot have economic growth without factoring in environment into the picture. But the sort of evidence over the last, century or a little more than that suggests that indeed we have sort of witnessed growth, even if it came at the cost of our environment. So I'll reconcile the two statements and the sort of conflict that exists between the two as we proceed in our talk. And before I do that, let's look at what has happened since the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns. there's a graph, there's basically an image captured from satellites and stuff which measures pollution levels to say the least. The first image is of January, between January 1 and January 20 of China in the year 2020. And then it's of February. What we see is that there is a drastic reduction in the pollution levels when there was a lockdown in force. And what this suggests is that the present mode of economic activity happens to in fact be polluting in nature. And that is something that we need to understand, that not all economic activity is non-polluting in nature. So the next question is, how do we deal with it? And I think that's something that needs to be addressed. So let's just move to the next slide, and we're going to have a slightly longer discussion about that, sort of in a more comprehensive manner. So there's this problem of externalities that we talk about a lot in economics literature. And what externality really means is that when I do something, it impacts you. And that's the concept of externalities. If I consume a particular good and if it creates a positive or negative impact on you, then that's an externality. To give you an example, suppose suppose you go out in a public place and there's an individual who's smoking there. Now, the fact that he's smoking means that he's releasing secondhand smoke that you're inhaling, which is detrimental to your health. So that's a negative externality. In contrast, suppose I set up a sort of a nice garden with beautiful flowers in front of my house, and you pass by and you really feel happy after looking at them. Now that's a positive externality that I've created on you. Now, carbon emissions or any kind of polluting activity is a classic case of externality in economics literature. And a good way to look at it would be to sort of view it in the form of us driving every day to work. If we are driving every day to work, we are consuming a fossil fuel and we are contributing to global emissions. Now, those global emissions are actually an externality, not just on those around us, but also at a global level. And economics as a discipline suggests two ways to deal with the problem. One is based on what economist A.C. Pigou suggested, which is having a Pigou tax, which is the rationale for a carbon tax that certain countries have levied. And what it means is that you put a tax to sort of ensure that people do not, or people are made to pay the price of the negative impact that they're causing. And that's exactly what a carbon tax is. A lot of countries have it. Many argue that India also probably has some form of carbon tax because the petrol prices and diesel prices over here are expensive. And that carbon tax really, what it does is it ensures that any kind of polluting activity is sort of discouraged by putting a higher tax. So that's one part. The other is establishing property rights, which was advocated by Coase. That is slightly difficult in the case of emissions, especially in countries like India. But the argument that Coase gave is essentially that if suppose I'm a person who has a factory which results in effluents being released to a particular river or lake, and there are sort of fishermen over there who sort of depend on it for their livelihood. Now my pollutants are killing fish, which means it's affecting their livelihood. A solution to this problem would be to either give me the right to the lake, in which case fishermen could pay me not to pollute the lake, or to give the right of the lake to fishermen so that I have to pay them to sort of ensure that I can pollute the lake. So these are two ways in which economics suggests that externalities can be dealt with. Of course, there are different kinds of other solutions as well, but these are the conventional sort of tools that sort of are discussed in economics literature. Here's where it gets interesting. Both of them were suggested in the mid-20th century. So they are nothing new. They are nothing new. In fact, these are old solutions that we've had for probably the better half of the previous century, and yet we haven't really enforced them. And that is exactly what I meant by saying that economics as a discipline does have a solution, but that hasn't translated into a policy action at a scale that was needed to be able to avert the consequences of climate change. So now we're going to proceed further, and what we see is that there's a concept of environment Kuznets curve. Now Simon Kuznets gave a Kuznets curve, which is very famous, and this environment Kuznets curve is based on what Simon Kuznets originally sort of presented. Now what it really means is that as an economy grows, there's an increase in the level of environmental degradation. And then once an economy is rich enough, they become more conscious about their environment. They start demanding clean air, fresh water, and a better environment. They become more environmentally conscious. And what happens in the process is that the government tightens environmental regulations and the level of environmental degradation sort of reduces. There is evidence of this happening in certain parts of the advanced economies, countries like Sweden, etc. Even France to some extent, or even the US have tried to sort of address this problem. Having said that, what really has transpired is that even though countries have taken those measures, a lot of their polluting activities have shifted to the developed countries such as Bangladesh, China, etc. So in effect, it really hasn't reduced the level of environmental degradation at a global level. So the evidence on that is slightly mixed. So the next question then, and this is the topic of today's discussion primarily, is that how does climate change really affect the economy? And this becomes very important because you might be getting a lot of information these days about the economic situation of the world. There are reports every day regarding the sort of economic crisis or contraction that's happening at the global level. So the question is that how will sort of climate change impact the economy? And it's kind of actually very simple. It's not rocket science that it's going to have an impact on the economy, and it's going to have an impact on the economy because of the disruption that it caused in our day-to-day life. But the key question is who will be the worst hit countries? And unfortunately, the worst hit countries would be the poorer, hotter, and lower lying countries. To give you an example, if glaciers are melting at an unprecedented pace, countries like Maldives, countries like Mauritius, what happens to these countries? Would they be able to exist? What happens to their economies if there's no country, if there's no land? What happens then? So that's the kind of catastrophic situation that we're looking at. And erratic changes in weather conditions would result in increased migration because if an island is sort of going to be submerged in water, people are going to want to move to different parts of the world. And what we haven't really discussed at length over the sort of course of this century is the prospects of climate refugees and what it means going forward. I mean, there's a big chunk of climate refugees that are going to come into different parts of the world. How do we give them rights? How do we deal with them? That's going to be a major issue that needs to be addressed. And mind you, even if we become more environmentally sort of conscious today, there will still be certain impact of climate change. So even if we try to reduce our carbon footprint, some of this impact is going to be felt irrespective of what happens, and we need to sort of factor that into our consideration. And these changes really mean that there could be slower global growth. And what that means is that some of the low growth sort of developed or underdeveloped countries would not be able to have the kind of environment that some of the other countries that were developing in 70s, 80s had, because of countries such as Singapore or the East Asian Tigers, they were poor countries in 60s, 70s, but they sort of grew faster because global growth was sort of decent and the entire global economic environment was conducive. So they were able to uplift more people out of poverty. The progress that the world has made on poverty reduction in the last 2-3 decades has been phenomenal, but that may not be able to repeat itself because of slower global growth, because of climate change. Now that's one implication that we really need to keep in mind. So any attempt at sort of preventing the consequences of climate change is important to ensure that we can mitigate the impact of climate change on poverty and on the most vulnerable sections of the global sort of income distribution. So apart from this, there will be more changes, and what will be the transmission mechanism of the effect of climate change? There's, it's pretty obvious that the worst hit would be agriculture because that's the most vulnerable to climate risk. If you're sort of producing at a place where you're getting decent rainfall and if suddenly temperature and rainfall patterns shift, then you wouldn't be able to grow over there. So agriculture is the most vulnerable sector to climate change, and that's something that we really need to sort of be aware of, especially because a lot of the developing countries really depend on agriculture as the prime source of income for a bulk of their population, and the same is also true for India. Agriculture may contribute 17-18% to our GDP, but it does employ somewhere between 40 to 45% of our population directly or indirectly, and that's exactly what is the trend across different parts. In certain countries, of course, agriculture contributes as a greater proportion to the GDP, but a lot of people depend on it for their income, and that is exactly why the poorer countries or the developing countries would be at a greater risk. Infrastructure, considerable amount of the global wealth is trapped in infrastructure, and that comes at direct risk due to climate change. Highways across coasts, airports near coasts, all of that will either have to be repaired or replaced. That's a big chunk of amount that would need to be sort of, factored into. So a lot of wealth would get destroyed because of erratic climate changes. We have seen, in fact, as a matter of fact, uh, hurricanes, etc., becoming more prevalent and having a catastrophic impact on wealth destruction in certain parts of the world. That's again a sign that climate change could result in greater volatility of these sort of erratic natural disasters. And what that means is that we would have greater wealth being destroyed at a regular interval should we not work towards ensuring ecosystem stability. Uh, Another impact is on human health and productivity channel. A lot of people are not really factoring in what would an increase in temperature mean for human health and productivity. Well, here's a fun statistic, which is not so fun when you think about it in a broader sense, but it often gets ignored. A mere increase of 4.5 degrees Celsius in the US could result in 9,300 people dying and an annual loss of up to $140 billion. That's a huge amount. Now, that amount actually tells you the scale of the cost associated with environmental sort of degradation and climate change. Tourism, which happens to be a big sort of revenue generating activity, a big service for most parts of the world. 2 billion worth of economic activity could be lost because of less snow and ice due to climate change. Now that's 2 billion worth of less economic activity at a global level, but it's huge, considering that a lot of the countries primarily depend on tourism alone. So that's one part of the transmission mechanism. And what it would really translate for those countries is that suppose 2 billion worth of economic activity is lost, then that represents a loss of 2 billion worth of income for some people. And that in itself means 2 billion worth of less purchasing power. So all of these factors will ensure that there would be a sort of reduction in the global economic growth rates because of climate change that we could witness for the coming few years. And for general businesses, the very frequency of extreme weather conditions, droughts in different areas, and greater volatility would induce, a catastrophic impact because we will have supply chains being disrupted, costs going up, and at the same time, companies will no longer be as profitable as they were before, which means that they wouldn't be able to give the kind of salaries or other increments, etc., which would result in slower income growth as well in certain parts of the world. Another important fact is that if there are droughts and there's water shortage, then we may see a substantial increase in price of water. This is important for all of us, who live in India, because we presume that water over here is cheap because it's available and it's provided free of cost to us. And it makes us to believe that probably there's no constraint on water. Well, that's not true. Our government subsidizes water, and because of that, we end up not realizing its true value, its true price, and we end up wasting it. There are countries like Singapore which price it at a very high rate, and because they price it at a very high rate, it's precisely because they realize that water as a resource is very scarce and it may not be available, or even if it is available, it is going to be very expensive going forward. Now, if water were to truly be priced at the market rate or at what its true price is, then we would see a lot of people in India who may not find it to be affordable to consume water, which is actually a necessity. And that shows that indeed there is a water scarcity. So for all of us who can pay for it and we choose to waste water, we are actually, creating a big problem for the poor and vulnerable in the longer run. And we need to really be mindful of simple things when it comes to that. When teachers in kindergarten, etc., used to say that close the tap while taking a brush, or try to preserve or conserve water wherever possible. And we used to brush it off thinking that, okay, it's not going to hit us. Probably the next generation has to worry for it. Well, you know what? True story is that we have to worry about it, not the next generation, because the impact will be felt by us. So we need to make those lifestyle changes today so that we can ensure that we can at least conserve or preserve or mitigate whatever impact we can of climate change. But the impact is not just limited to these sectors, as we see in the next slide. I spoke about global growth reducing, and now this is something that I really want to discuss in a bit of detail. This is a sort of a lot of people might have studied economics, so they do know what production possibility frontiers are. It's the amount of goods and services that can be produced within a country with a given set of resources. What this graph is showing two curves. The first one is showing the extent of output, economic output that can be produced with the current level of labor and capital stock. So there are two factors of production in economics: labor and capital. So if we have the current level of labor and capital stock, this is the amount of growth that we can have, which is Y1. But when there's environmental change, when there's climate change, there's a reduction in the natural capital being available, there's wealth being destroyed. And what it means is that there's a reduction in the capital stock in the economy. So when you have a reduced capital stock, say at K2, even with the same amount of labor, you would have only Y2 amount of goods and services being produced. And that's where the sort of point is. This is how climate change is going to reduce global growth, or rather global economic activity. And this is exactly why I put this graph over here to give you a theoretical perspective of why this is really going to happen, or what is the economic intuition behind slower global growth because of climate change. So now we're going to move to the next slide, where we're going to discuss on some outcomes of this reduction in sort of global value of economic output. For starters, rising inflation. Inflation across the world, which is increasing prices, has been going down. And the reason it has been going down is because of globalization and multiple factors. So price levels have actually remained more or less, or rather have grown very sort of at a low pace across the world. That is going to change now, and that's going to change because of climate change. When the supply chain being disrupted, we will see an increase in cost for businesses, and that cost will be pushed over to consumers, which means that we may have to end up paying more for a lot of things going forward. The reduction in the capital stock means lower amount of economic activity. That itself could result in supply shortages, which could result in supply curve shifting, and then the price going up. So rising inflation due to climate change could be a possibility that we need to sort of factor in. Another point is increasing energy costs. So this is not sort of kind of straightforward. So to understand this, we need to consider it this way. Suppose you stay in Delhi, and suddenly Delhi becomes more hot during the summers and more cold during the winters. So the amount of hours that you would be using an air conditioner in the summers would go up, and at the same time, the amount of time you will be using heaters in winters would go up. So you're using more energy, and that is going to push up your cost of your out-of-pocket expenditure on sort of energy. At the same time, when there's an increase in the demand for energy, there would be a push to replace some of our conventional sort of thermal energy plants which run on coal, which is a fossil-based technology, which results in a lot of carbon emissions. So while we are transitioning to renewable energy, that supply gap means that on one side we'll have an increase in the demand for energy, and on the other we'll have a period where demand will sort of outpace supply, or there will be a supply shock. And in that case, energy costs will go up. And while they go up, eventually, of course, supply will catch up, but renewable energy will take time to be at least as cheaper as coal, etc. So there could be an increase in energy costs going forward. And that cost will again, come from the pocket of the consumers, because an increasing energy cost also means that what we are going to witness over time is that production of goods and services will become costly. So that also gets passed on to. Insurance premium, and this is something that we don't really talk about much in India. Probably a lot of people don't get climate change insurance over here. But in 2011 alone, the insurance industry incurred a loss, or rather insured a loss, to the tune of $126 billion due to climate change. Now that's a big amount. That's a big amount, and it's for a 2011 figure, but that suggests that there will be a considerable amount of income which will be lost because of climate change, and insurance companies will have to foot the bill. And what that means is that insurance premiums are going to go up, and that is again going to be a cost factor, which sort of have an impact on companies and on sort of individuals. But what these factors combined mean is that global growth would be slightly slower. Poverty alleviation may not be as fast as it was before, and attempts at reducing inequality would also not sort of be as successful as they have been before. And all of this will test the resilience of the global economy. But having said that, I will not end at a pessimistic note. I mean, of course, these are challenges. Should we not acknowledge that there's a problem at hand? If we do recognize that yes, we have a problem, and if we do take measures to rectify it, I do see that we are going to have sort of a much more faster sort of policy response to the challenge. And if that happens, then probably some of the impact could be mitigated. We are already seeing countries come together and talk about addressing the problem of climate change. Ideally, I would have loved if countries could arrive at policy conclusions and put in place some policy implications or policy prescriptions and really go more aggressive on it. The pace has been slow, but we also need to recognize that while the pace has been slow, this is an unprecedented level of focus on climate issues. In fact, the present pandemic itself has seen institutions like the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, etc., talk about ensuring a sustained economic recovery from this, which means that they have to factor in, or countries have to factor in, environmental sustainability going forward. There is ESG guidelines that have been sort of put forward for companies. So there is a renewed focus on having a more sustainable economic model for different countries. And I do think, and I'm optimistic that we are going to come out of it with a much better sort of economic growth, which is much more sustainable and resilient over a longer period of time. To give you an example, the progress that India alone has made on the environmental front by increasing the amount of renewable energy going for solar plants, etc., over the last 6 years alone has been unprecedented. If more countries do take up these measures, and if we have more such policy sort of interventions in the form of creating an international solar alliance, etc., then what we're going to end up with is probably a much better future than what is being portrayed in the event of no action. So here's hope that certain countries, especially developing countries, would take up the task, would take up the challenge, and would be more proactive to discuss these issues with some of the advanced countries. India has been very proactive over the last couple of years. If more countries do join us, then probably we would be able to mitigate some of the adverse effects of the climate change crisis that we're witnessing right now.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative speech. Uh, I didn't think that economics would be so fun. Now we would like to move on to the Q&A round. So over to you, Anna.
Every time we talk about climate change, people also associate it with their mental health because climate change will have some effect on someone's mind also. So if a person's mentality is not like mental health is not good, so can he be a productive citizen for the economy?
So that's a very interesting point. In fact, there have been studies that have linked how people sort of, respond to changes in temperature conditions. For instance, if you're used to a sort of cold climate environment, and if suddenly temperatures go up, you're unable to sort of be more productive. So there are two ways that this would impact individuals. One would be just through the mental health effect, and the other would be in general fatigue and some of the other sort of biological reactions to the increase in temperature. So indeed, there would be a productivity impact. And as I outlined, that the productivity loss would cost $126 billion worth of economic activity being lost for a just increase of 4.5 degrees Celsius. Now, that's exactly what I'm trying to stress on, that the impact on different sectors is one thing, but there will also be a simultaneous impact through the productivity channel. And nobody can put a price on that impact or value it quantitatively. If 9,300 people are going to lose their lives because of a 4.5 degrees Celsius increase of temperature in the US alone, then that tells that, of course, it's an unquantifiable loss, and we need to do whatever it takes to sort of prevent it from happening.
So, sir, environmental changes have been quite visible in the past years. So, how much economically have we been fighting these changes?
So over the last couple of years, I don't think a lot of policy response has come in, the kind that was expected after COP sort of negotiations, the Paris Accord and stuff. There have been progress. I'm not going to sort of deny that there hasn't been progress. In fact, certain countries have taken measures independently and individually. For instance, India has taken measures by moving towards renewable energy. Paris is taking measures. France is taking measures. Sweden, countries like Austria, etc., are also looking at different ways through which they can address the problem. Iceland, Ireland, some of these countries which are there are witnessing the costs associated with climate change, and they've started to mitigate a lot of its impact through different policy tools. That's a progress. I mean, I think is it enough? I don't think so, but it's a progress nonetheless. I do expect that with the amount of focus that are shifted onto environmental issues, probably the pace of discussions translating into policy action would accelerate. And I think that's something that we would have to keenly watch for over the next couple of years.
So thank you so much for being here and answering all our questions. Now over to you, Lakshita.
Thank you so much, Ahana and Advik, and thank you so much, Karan sir, for such an informative session. So before moving forward, I would like to announce the 2 golden rules again. Please give your valuable feedback in the link mentioned in the chat box, and please ask your questions away in the Q&A box. As we are looking at the Q&A box, so we'll be replying to your questions. So please ask questions. So moving forward, she is a national level athlete and has won multiple medals at the national level for high jump. She is here not only because she is a good sports person, but also because she enjoys studying economics and history and their connection to social issues that are prevalent today. She is none other than the young mind which is climbing great heights, Anushka Bindra. She founded her organization Determined by Hope in 2018 that aims to work with the villages to improve their standard of living in accordance with the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals by launching sub-projects in the area. She is a learner herself, and yet we have so much to learn from her. So without wasting time, let's call upon the stage Anushka Bindra.
That was quite an introduction. Thank you for that so much. I'll just share my screen if you give me a minute. So I want to first thank you guys for that introduction. That was really nice. Today I'm going to be focusing on what we can do as students and the impact we can make from smaller initiatives. So I'll just share a PPT if possible. All right, is that visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If I put it in full screen, it seems to vanish. So is it okay if I stick to it like this? Because the moment I put it in full screen, something goes wrong.
Oh, absolutely fine.
All right. Okay. So I want to start by a very interesting thing someone once said. It will start getting colder. Just wait and watch. I don't think the science knows. Now, unfortunately, that's not how the world works. But for now, I want you to hold on to 2 words, negligence and ignorance. These are 2 very important words. I'll just come back to it later. But for now, just hold on to these. Now, from a very young age in my household, ideologically, one thing has been taught to me by my mother, and that is understanding the consequences to my actions. She made 10-year-old Anushka accompany her to food distribution drives, orphanages, and more. And I did not understand the value of this then, but these early childhood experiences is what has instilled in me a state of consciousness. I started visiting a village near my house where I would spend time with these children and teach them basics of math, English, conduct science experiments, and inquire into their lives. It was for 2 years, fun things like understanding how instead of plastic bags, we can make paper bags from reusing newspapers in our house, conducting day-to-day plantation drives, planting trees with them, things like that. And That is how my organization, Determined by Hope, started. So near Diwali, I happened to ask these children how they planned on spending their festive season. And unfortunately, the picture that was painted to me was that someone would burst crackers, they might end up in the hospital, hurt and burnt. And that was a very sad and unfortunate picture of Diwali to me. Now, over obvious reasons of why this was horrifying to a 13-year-old, the fact that simple, frivolous pollution endorsing activities like firecrackers were still prevalent was very, very concerning. Little did I know that a few patakas were the least of our concerns. The gravity of the situation of pollution in our environment was understood by me the day we started having annual pollution breaks alongside our regular summer, winter, and Diwali holidays. That year, we decided to conduct a more eco-friendly Diwali, showing that we can celebrate the festival we love so much in a more climatically conscious manner. This was attended by around 450 people and crowdfunded through friends and family. These are pictures of preparations and activities like actually diya painting and making rangolis over bursting crackers and creating pollution. So I think, in my opinion, this Mela sort of did two things. It showed everyone that Diwali could, in fact, be celebrated in more eco-friendly manners. And number two, it introduced a sense of community in this village. On this one day, we had so many people that usually would not interact with each other coming in and building a sense of community. Now, when working with certain areas like villages, some problems tend to arise. One of the hurdles we faced was gaining the trust of the people. Due to past experiences, gaining trust isn't always easy for the people. Assuring them that we aren't there to harm their land or take it away, but helping them is what we did. And that really helped us gain their trust and work in a more coordinated fashion. Now, coming to my next point, why? Why do we throw that juice box outside our window or dump decomposing organic waste in the open? Why do we leave lights switched on despite not needing them? I think this is for two reasons: ignorance and misinformation. Most of the time, and most of the people don't understand the situation we're in or the severe ramifications of a single degree rise in global temperature. The key to this is spreading information. Above the basic don't waste water, switch off lights when not needed, don't litter, we need to start implementing waste segregation, celebrating our festivals in more eco-friendly manners, conducting society-wise cleanup and plantation drives, switching already established habits with more sustainable alternatives, and spreading information. This can start at the grassroots level, at the village level. When implemented in one village, all of these may not have a substantive effect, but when it is replicated across hundreds and thousands of villages across the country, it will. Now, going slightly in depth into each of these solutions, waste segregation. I remember the route I used to take to the daycare to meet these children was a very small and narrow path. It had two very large dustbins, and there was an empty plot near the daycare that too was filled with garbage. Now imagine the decomposing waste out in heat, Delhi heat would release carbon dioxide and methane. What are these? The greenhouse gases, which inevitably absorb heat, causing heat to be trapped near the surface of our Earth, leading to global warming and eventually what we're trying to fight today, climate change. Now, trying to get individuals of this area to segregate their waste for the simple reason of climate change is challenging. The way to move forward about this would be conducting workshops with these villagers on how to segregate their waste. Then constructing society-wise dustbins segregated into the 3 to 4 different categories you have. But all of this is quite difficult when you're constrained with limited budgets. So the way to move forward about this would be contacting third-party NGOs that work specifically for this issue. The next thing, switching some pre-existing established habits we have with more sustainable alternatives. For example, in light of the COVID situation, the use of single-use disposable masks has rapidly increased. which can lead to numerous issues if not disposed correctly and if disposed in such large quantities. Now, a simple improvement would be switching to cloth masks that can be washed and reused multiple times. Now, we actually held a small drive where we distributed said cloth masks in hopes that people would start switching out their plastic and their single-use masks with these cloth masks, along with sanitizers, thermometers, and a few more things. And I think small things like making sure that the packaging of these kits is cloth instead of plastic subtly reinforces and encourages the use of more sustainable alternatives. It doesn't have to be something very large. It can be minor changes in our everyday routine, like carrying our own bags when visiting the grocery store, or using reusable coffee filters instead of single-use ones. So now I want to bring you back to two words I had asked you to hold on to in the beginning, and that is negligence and ignorance. Negligence leaves room for lack of accountability on our part, and ignorance provides plausible deniability, both of which are very dangerous when it comes to a situation like climate change, something that we cannot necessarily actively see, but works over a large and long period of time. This brings me to my second point. When we buy commodities today, for example, a simple pencil, we pay a certain sum of money. This money represents the cost of acquiring the wood and lead to make the pencil, transportation of the material, and packaging. However, it fails to acknowledge one very extremely important cost, and that is the environmental opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? It is the loss of potential gain when an alternative is chosen over another alternative, which basically means it is the cost of what could have been had we made another decision. A natural resource is essentially considered worthless till we assign it a value based on market price and risk. Example, a tree is worthless till we cut it down and make it into lumber, then tables and chairs. We account for the cost of paying a worker to cut these trees down, the cost of transporting it, but strangely enough, we don't seem to account for the opportunity cost of letting that ecosystem thrive. In this case, the opportunity cost would include everything from the oxygen we're depriving the surrounding area of the tree to the bacterial ecosystem that live inside of that tree. The environmental opportunity cost is the value in letting the resources grow and reproduce. And I think in today's times, on an individual level and on a corporate level, starting to acknowledge this cost is extremely important. Because today, large businesses and corporates don't have to include this environmental opportunity cost on their balance sheets. They aren't bound to acknowledge the damage done. And this lack of accountability gives them plausible deniability. When someone is given the option of not acknowledging the consequences of their actions, the likelihood of them adjusting the same is minute. Now, coming back to the quote I started today with, it will start getting colder, you just watch. I don't think science knows actually. This quote was said by an esteemed international businessman. Now, this shows us the common string of denying the very reality of climate change that ties people across all ages, nationalities, and economic backgrounds. On an individual level, the work I've done and started from the age of 13, whether it's spending years actively with these children or meetings with the villagers or taking action toward community building, all of this for me as a 16-year-old might be a significant amount. But let's be real, when looked at from the larger picture, makes little to absolutely no impact. However, when thousands of us and millions of us across the world start taking small initiatives together, we can make a larger difference. And I think that's the main takeaway for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anushka, for such a wonderful session. We and our audience have some questions we would like to ask you.
All right.
Anushka, what do you think is the biggest environmental threat today?
The biggest environmental threat today. All right, so I think obviously there's carbon emissions, there's the greenhouse gas effect, there's so much scientific stuff, and I think we already know this steps we can take to solving that. But this might sound a little weird and a little confusing, but I think the biggest threat today is denying and ignoring what we already know. So as individuals, science has already shown us that there's so much that is going wrong, that a single degree rise can cause ice caps to melt, can cause sea levels to rise, can cause changes in the patterns of climate, can cause so many issues. But I think the fact that people are still not acknowledging, and we as a community are not taking that many active steps. Of course, change is happening, steps are being taken, but the fact that it's not being taken at the scale that it should be is what I think is the biggest environmental threat today.
Great. Do you know any of the misconceptions that exist regarding the word sustainable development? If yes, then what it is and what's the clarification you would give about it?
Okay, thank you for your question. So I think when people think of the words sustainable development, they usually think that economic gain and sustainable development or being environmentally conscious are exclusive of each other, right? People, I feel like, sometimes automatically assume that if you're talking about sustainable development, it's going to come at a great economic cost. But one thing I think that we need to clarify is that we can have economic development and economic gain while being environmentally sustainable. Because if we don't do this, in the long term, I don't think businesses are going to last. Something small like changing, I mean, it's not small, I think it's a major step we all must take, is switching out whether it's coal-powered electricity with alternatives like hydroelectricity or solar electricity. Now, sure, initially this will be a large investment and initially this is going to be a major cost, but over the period of time, it can definitely be recovered. And I think the fact that people think environmental consciousness and development is exclusive is a misconception.
Agreed. So some businesses, some businesses other than the the eco-friendly businesses, they promise better finance than the eco-friendly businesses. So, entrepreneurs, they tend to get attracted towards these money-centered businesses. How do you think this problem can be solved?
So I think this relates with the previous question and previous answer largely. I think we need to realize that, right, economic gain in the short term might be very, very tempting, but we need to understand, given the situation we're in the long term, we might not have a planet to live on. So this economic gain is going to essentially be completely worthless if we don't have a means to keep it sustainable in the long term. So while in the short term, it's very tempting to use whether it's cheaper plastics instead of reusable packaging, in the long term, that's not going to work out. And I think keeping in mind that, of course, we want our businesses and we want our means of living, our salaries and everything to be sustainable for the long term is something we should definitely keep in mind when making these decisions.
Absolutely. So, as a teenager, I wanted to ask you that what all I can do to help the environment. So, what is your say on this?
So I think we as teenagers and we as students, obviously we don't have to take very, very big steps. I think it's small things we can implement in our daily lives that if all of us implement together can make a larger difference. I think small things like taking the school bus instead of individual cars. If you're going somewhere close by, driving a cycle or a bike instead of, going by car. Starting small traditions. I think it's a beautiful tradition to some people do planting a tree every birthday, collecting our worksheets. I think we have so many worksheets and papers and notebooks that we don't require, and a lot of people just tend to throw it or sell it to a kabadi wala or a garbage man. What we can do instead is give it to NGOs that are going to recycle that. So and I think one really important thing as teenagers is calling out our friends. What can be really, really intimidating to do is if you see a friend doing something that might not be environmentally responsible, whether it's, irresponsibly using water or bursting crackers, something like that. It can be very intimidating as a teenager to try to call out one of your own friends. But I think that's a very important thing we can do, is spreading information by ensuring that our own peers don't, involve themselves in threatening our future.
So, we've come to know that you've worked with a lot of villages. What is the most common thing you see and you want to improve in every village that you work with?
So I think I've focused on only one village in the whole time. So in this village, the things I've noticed is there's actually a lot of social customs. I think the mindset that we come from urban schools or modern schools versus the mindset that is prevalent in the villages is quite different. So one thing that we need to work on, one thing I've noticed is that there is a severe lack of information. A lot of people don't even know or aren't even aware of the concept of climate change. They aren't even aware of the concept of carbon emissions or greenhouse gases. And since we don't even know that all of this exists, there aren't any steps being taken toward it. So one thing I really want to start with implementing is spreading information on climate change, is telling people that this exists.
Absolutely. So, how does a lifestyle change offer a sustainable solution to environmental and social issues?
How does a lifestyle? Okay, so like I said, the social issues that when you're privy to when you go to villages is actually stuff like children are being pulled out of school to work. There is you're privy to sexism, you're privy to very, very, very harsh economic lifestyle. So I think in these villages, when you're trying to work with them as an individual, one thing you need to do is build a sense of community, which is really, really important. And in terms of lifestyle changes we can make, a lifestyle change I have is, for example, going vegetarian or vegan. Now, a lot of people think that it's just because of animal rights and stuff like that. But if you look at the environmental impact of changing from being either non-vegetarian to vegetarian or being vegan is massive. So as a lifestyle, people tend to think that there is not available food option. But as a vegetarian myself, and I think a lot of India is vegetarian too, there is a lot of option. And I think as a lifestyle change, that's a big one.
Amazing, like absolutely. So yeah, that's it for the questions, I guess. Thank you so much, Anushka. It was incredible having you here with us today. You're incredible, and you're my age, and that is, I don't know, I have no words. Over to Rashi and Lakshita.
Thank you so much, Shadakshi, and thank you so much, Anushka, for being here with us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was honestly so wonderful to listen to other people's talks and learn so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor to be able to hear such accomplished individuals. Today, we have successfully crossed the first step towards our ultimate goal of bringing a change in our climatic conditions, giving back to the earth what we took and are taking from it. But this was just the first stage, as there are miles to measure now. So on this occasion, let's take a pledge. We will reduce, reuse, and recycle. We will commit to and encourage the reduction of our community's carbon footprint. We will give back in every way we can to our planet. We will strive to make sustainable use of our natural environment so that no species will be endangered or disappear because of our actions.
Now, we would like to invite our principal ma'am, a distinguished personality with an eye for perfection, Miss Sonia Anil Verma, to give us the vote of thanks.
Thank you, students. I'm so happy and I'm so delighted that today on this occasion of second TEDx happening at Khaitan Public School, you've all made us so proud. Good evening, all the valued speakers who are present today, the worthy staff of the school, alumni, and all the dear students of Student Council and all those who have been tirelessly working for this event. I'm very sure that today's event has made a lot of changes in your life. There would be a lot of lessons, and I was hearing very carefully how you were able to summarize beautifully with the learning outcomes and how to take it ahead. Definitely, there is no debate about this, that climate change will most certainly impact future generations. I believe that this global issue, has the potential, and we have seen in recent pandemic situation that it can take away everything we take for granted in this day and age. So my appeal to all of the students is that remember that this day is the day which is not to be wasted upon. I think the action becomes more active once there is a willingness to take an action. And willingness is very prominently spelled out by all the speakers today in this discussion. I take this opportunity to thank our chief guest, Florin Goffin, for his presence. His belief in life is something which is remarkable. And what I have taken away is that the beautiful lessons of Mahatma Gandhi ji, preserved and taken as a meaningful inspiration by him to go ahead in life, is a real lesson for all the Indians to live upon. I would definitely want to thank all the speakers of today who have been there since morning, made everybody so proud, and created a lot of knowledge for us. Jhumar Mehta, Shivraj Khaitan, Nandika Rohit, Sparsh Nitin, Rimp Torje, Kapil Sharma, Karan, Anushka, I just heard you, and all the performers of Yugam Band. I think all of them had talked about one single thing, and that one single thing is not to be missed out by any student in life. I also take this opportunity to thank our COSA, that is Khaitan School Old Students Association, Manmeet, for his presence today and all the support that he has extended to the school. I'm thankful to the entire team of KPS who have been working tirelessly to make this event a grand success. I'm so proud of the entire team of KPS. Special acknowledgement goes to Gunjan Tripathi, our event and media head, Snelata Kusum, the always to go ahead team working together, Harsh, the admin head. Student council, you people have really done that effort. You've made that thing happen for the school. And I want to acknowledge Rashi, Lakshita, Ahan, Shatakshi, Advik, Chavi for entire performances today in terms of coordination, event management. Without you, or I would say you had been the lead today for taking this program ahead, and we are so proud of you. I would want to mention Khaitan TV of ours had been doing so well to make everybody go ahead and realize that how is it possible for the children of the school to go ahead with professional skills. I'm thankful to the entire IT team supporting this event, Sandeep and his team who have been making this all possible. I am thankful to the entire fraternity of Khaitan School who directly or indirectly have supported in achieving this mission. Thank you, children, and I congratulate all of you to this grand success of second TEDx event. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Reaching towards the end of this event, you know, Rashi, I've learned a lot today. After listening to such commendable TED Talks, I would like to quote Albert Einstein. We need a substantially new way of thinking if humanity is to survive. And I really hope that after this event, we will definitely give a thought to what can we do? How can we be the change to bring a change? Today, we started with our action against climate change on a worldwide scale, along with several other TEDx events that are happening at this very moment. But it doesn't end here. We have taken the pledge to protect the environment. Let's promise to do one more thing. Each time we make an effort towards sustainability, we will share our experience with the world. Post it on our social media accounts, tag us at @Khaitan Public School, and share the hashtag Join the Countdown. Taking away such beautiful lessons, I really hope that we will again meet next year at TEDxKhaitan Public School 2021. Till then, stay safe and stay happy. Adios, Annyeong, Abiyanto, and Namaste.
Remember that you can always revisit this day on our YouTube channel, KPS Sahibabad. Signing off, Rashi and Lakshita.
I just had a personal request. Can we have a picture together?
Yeah.
That's a very
Because
sweet
I really
request.
don't want to
Of
miss this
course we
moment.
can.
Okay.
Let's
Five,
just switch on all our videos.
seven.
Please switch on your videos,
Okay, sure.
everyone.
Do tag us though.
Of course, of course. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. Perfect. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were amazing
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All of our speakers were amazing.
Everyone did
You
so
all
well.
were great.
Thank
You
you,
all
everyone.
were great, and a big round of applause for all of you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Live needs to be stopped.
Thank you.
So we will end with this. I just wanted to, slide in a few words. This team of children that we are seeing on the screen right now have worked night and day with me, and I'm so grateful to them for making it possible. And especially, I must make a little mention to Rashi. I mean, she has been like doing practically everything, putting things together, starting from PPTs to scripts to questions to everything. I think, Rashi, you're a superstar. Thank you so much. And you guys, all of you are just absolutely brilliant. Thank you all so much. And I need to also mention the Khaitan Dispatch team, who are a part of the Student Council. But today they have worked tirelessly ever since the event began. They have been sending us quick reports and little things about everything that every speaker said. And they have been busy through the day, and they have done brilliant work. So thank you all so very much for supporting us in all this, creating this magic. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
We wouldn't have been able to do anything without you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sonia, ma'am, Anirudh, all of you guys.
Yes.
We're just so thankful to get these opportunities.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
नहीं हमारा नेता कैसा हो गुंजन मैम जैसा हो
Children, I would mention that these are your real learnings in life. These learnings you are going to use in your lifetime, and I can promise you that after 20-30 years, when you come back, you will say, yes, I learned here in school when I did this event. So this is what the stage we have come across, and this is the stage which we are giving to you as a legacy. Take it ahead, move ahead.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, dear. See you next year.
Yeah.
Ma'am, yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully that will not be a
Allow us in
virtual
12th.
meet.
Only if you
Yeah.
let us, because we'll be in 12th.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, children.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Success party. Oh,
Aware
okay.
7 attendees.